not working to get. So, that's what, as soon as they verify it, I'll be hopping on my laptop too. These triple. Says, Alex asks, the home I'm working on may have rat issues. Is there anything I should look out for or anything I should make sure you should do? Yeah. So, you guys, if you have, definitely deal with this on the regular. If you have infestation from pets, the thing that you want to do, there's a lot of them in the houses that we typically have, but there's going to be a couple things that come out of that. One is the odor, because rats will leave odor behind. And so you want to treat that all with like a rodent killer treatment. You can have a rodent company do it. You can order it online. It kind of treats the smell of it. The next thing you want to do is figure out why they're coming in. So they're coming in from some access point, whether it's the attic, the siding, the hole. There's somewhere that they were coming through at that point, and you need to hire. I would hire a pest company to just do a survey on it, so then they can get all the prevention done. And then the other thing that you want to look for is the insulation in the house. Oftentimes rodents get in insulation. If they start peeing and pooping inside that insulation, you're going to need to take it all out because it's just nearly impossible to get the smell out. And so most of it's going to have to do with insulation and then kind of preventing further issue with a rodent company.
Yeah, I actually just saw that in a flip I just finished where there was like their rodent droppings and stuff were in the attic insulation and it looks gross and my GC is like, "Oh, I think it's okay. We'll just leave it." And I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. If I'm trying to get 1.5 million for this house and they do an inspection, I feel like that they're just going to see this gross insulation up here.
Yeah, it's well, and here's the thing. All right, now I'm on a real computer. Thank you. So yeah, that's a common thing too. Like the general contractor's like, we should just leave it, right? Because it's it's probably fine, is what they're saying, or it's not that bad. But what the issue is, once it gets called on an inspection, buyers will say, hey, we want this treated by a professional company. We want a rodent company come out. We want it deodorized. We want all these things. It triggers so much more cost on that inspection than just ripping it out and putting it back in because they want to follow, they're going to want these retail. It's like mold and rodents. Like when they bring in these retail companies, the costs are 10 times what it should be. And so I would think more preventative on it because attic insulation, they can take that out and put new stuff in for like less than like $1,500 to $2,000, right? $2,000 or less.
Okay.
And if a buyer calls it and you have to go through all the hoops, you could be paying 3 to 4,000, if not 5. And so I would just take care of it or see if they can suck it out and put it back in. It's not that, I mean, attic insulation, guys, is not very expensive. You can literally have it removed. Go get bags of insulation for blow-in from Home Depot. You buy the bags, they'll give you a free blower with that bags for rentals, and you can spray it in, and it's like $1,100 to do your whole house up top.
Yeah, it's like a 1,271 square foot house, so it's not
Yeah,
even.
and so I would rather button it up. Plus, it just
Yeah,
makes the buyers feel better too, and then they don't investigate a bunch of other things that they don't need to be investigating.
yeah, and because I had the inspector come out, and of course he didn't have everything done, so I ended up paying my inspector $200 to do like a pre-inspection and just like rattle off everything that needed to be done, so that way I could have a clear inspection for like once I get offers.
Um, yeah, I would definitely
Just get it
I
done.
would just take care of it. You guys, some people have they want to leave a list for people like, oh, let's let them focus on this or focus on this. And I think back in 2008 to 14, that was kind of the thing because people were paying so much less. You didn't really need to do it all. But when you're selling a premium product, we're really thorough on our punch list. I don't want to leave these items because it ends up always costing me more in my inspection. And so, or then the people kind of get freaked out. They're like, well, you did this and you didn't do this. And how did you not check this? It just, I like to keep my list small on my inspections.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't put new windows in, and I'm kicking myself for that.
Uh,
It's like
yeah, and
little
that's,
things, but
and that's always based on comps too.
yeah,
If you see I mean, you can retrofit them in too, but yeah, buyers do get picky about that stuff. It's
yeah,
even if you
room.
are pricing it at a price where the windows aren't justified to be new, they still pick on it. And so that's if you're doing that, I would just make sure you have those comps readily available. So you send the broker like, hey, look, we priced this accordingly to not have new windows.
Yeah,
Or one thing that I will do on some of those houses, I'll get a bid to retrofit them in so it doesn't interrupt the house. And then if someone really wants them, like, we love it, but it's like, well, if you want to pay 20 grand more, I'll order these and put these in for you.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm doing new ones in my other one. It was like 11 grand for 14 windows. It wasn't too crazy.
Yeah, windows are worth it a lot of times to me.
Yeah,
We don't like to, but it depends on what the comps say.
yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Pat, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. So I'm working on that Gig Harbor house that's on the
Okay.
water. Yeah, so it's obviously a bit of a kind of a luxury flip as we're going to try to exit, probably around that 2.5 million mark.
Okay.
I underwrote it for less, but things are still looking good and the comps are still all right. Um, but I'm kind of going through kind of some of the design stuff, specifically around like the kitchen. And I was wondering, like, is there a certain price point um, around like where you do maybe custom or semi-custom cabinets? Or is there a price point where you're like, hey, we're gonna do engineered hardwood for sure? Um, because normally I make all my decisions based on the comps, and the comps for this one are just a little bit tough. Like my direct comp, which is like two doors down, that was flipped last year. They did LVP throughout, but pretty much all the other homes that are in the area all have either real hardwood or engineered hardwood.
Okay.
And then maybe some mix of some LVP, maybe downstairs or something like that. Um, so my natural instinct is to just do like maybe not a custom kitchen, but maybe a semi-custom to just give it a little bit of a better look. But I don't want to like obviously blow up the budget on that. And probably leaning more towards doing some engineered hardwood. Just because I think that's definitely going to help sell the property. But I'm kind of wondering what your thoughts are on that.
You know what? I don't have a set standard for going whether I go custom or not, because sometimes we're putting in really nice cabinets in like an $800,000 house too, because it's we're chasing like a small house that sold for a huge premium. And so it does come down to comps. What I would say though, at 2.5 million, things that you can do, like price points in your location, like how many homes are trading in that $2 to $3 million range. It's going to be a little bit smaller volume. There's not as much inventory either. It's just there's less buyers for it. And then so what I always like to do, whether it's a direct comp or not, is I'll go out just in the general area and go, what are buyers looking at that are $2 to $3 million in all neighborhoods? Because it's going to be a very similar expectation. Because the tricky thing about yours is you're on waterfront. There's so many different things that can move the needle on waterfront, whether, it's lot size, dockage, um, amenities, how deep is the water in front of you? How clean is the water in front of you? Like those things will vary it more than the finishes a lot of times. And
Okay.
so I would do like 2 million to 3 million, see what's in that. I would say you want to probably up your specs a little bit. I wouldn't go crazy on your cabinets though. You could go
Okay.
from like Pius, and Pius actually has some good product too. Like those Slim Shaker cabinets that are like oak and white, that actually will probably be pretty good for what you're selling there. I'd have to
Yeah.
see comps, like the pictures of them a little bit. But you can always go up to like Belmont, and they have like a 1600 line, which is going to be about 30% more than Pius or 40% more. But that would be,
Okay.
you don't need to go custom. I would go with more of like a Bodian or Belmont above that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I originally looked at some Pius, and because I've done Pius before in previous flips, and they are nice. But
the
yeah, I don't
price
know.
that they're good for the price, that's for
They're
sure.
super good. Yeah. Um, okay. Yeah, I did go into Belmont. My contractor, my cabinet guy, he was like, Belmont's kind of overpriced a little bit, and it's basically the same product as a lot of other companies that you can get for a lot cheaper. Um, so yeah, I'll keep shopping around and kind of figure out what I want
Go
to
to
do.
Bodian too.
Okay.
They should be similar. I will say I do like actually, well, I can show everybody right now the Belmont cabinet. So for example, I put this in a duplex Belmont cabinets, but also because I live here part-time. So
Yeah.
I was like, I just didn't want to look at Pius cabinets all day in my house. But like, these were not that expensive. This whole kitchen was like, they're like a black slim shaker.
Okay.
And I think the whole cost of my cabinets were like 9,000 for the unit. And I think with
Okay.
Pius, it would have been probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Um, I would say they're good options. And part of it too is like how you do the finish work. Like you could still use Pius and then frame down your soffits so they're built in flush with the soffits.
Okay.
There's ways that you can kind of get around that. I wouldn't think that I honestly I think their slim shaker line's actually better than some of these other guys right now. Like
Yeah.
I do think it's a fairly good quality. Or like their walnut cabinets are not like when I'm looking
Yeah.
at them versus I'm like these are not bad actually whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. I've done the walnut ones before. I think they're actually really sweet, but I'm trying to go a little bit more like transitional on this one because I don't want to go super modern or anything like that. Just why I'm trying to avoid a little bit of the flat panel. I mean, I think you can still do it and not be super modern, but um yeah, it's just different for me because I'm used to doing like more modern or mid-century houses. And so this one's it's a little bit different. So it's definitely been a learning experience for me.
yeah, and that's okay, right? Like it's because you'll do the certain themes and the biggest thing is just play into the theme, don't force it, right?
Yeah.
It's I'm trying to remember what this house looks like exactly. It's a little bit more colonial looking, right?
It's fairly traditional. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and traditional, the shaker will work really well then. I'd go with like white slims and the honey oak. I'm trying to think of what spec sheet that we have. We've been posting those spec sheets in our um there. Let me on Facebook, I'll tag you on one, like, hey, use this one. There,
Okay.
there's some good traditional ones in there for sure.
Cool. Sweet.
Because you can go traditional, but not, it also doesn't need to be like boring.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah, that's kind of
so,
the hard part. It's like I want to go traditional, but I also want the kitchen to help sell the house. Um,
yeah, it's there's definitely a way you can play. I mean, even the one that we just listed in, let me throw the link in for you.
okay.
Um, this listing, we took it off market to handle a permit issue real quick, but I would go with kind of this kind of theme because it was kind of like a weird stucco house in the Bellevue, and I was like, man, this doesn't really fit in here. I'll put the Redfin link in, and then but there's definitely we have a bunch of new transit. I mean, honestly, transitional is kind of in right now. Like people kind of
Yeah.
like the masses. So, but I think you could really go with the same type of style all day long. And then we sold another one in Edmonds too that would actually probably work fairly well. We can get the spec sheet up on that one.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Here we go. I just put it. Oop, no, this is when we bought it. You don't want that because it definitely does not look good. Um, Let's throw this in and then I'll hop. Okay, because we canceled. I'll find the link and I'll post it in our chat as we're talking through. It's just they took it off the internet.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
I'm gonna have someone send that to me right now. Donnie, what's up, buddy?
Oh, sorry, James. Hold on. You got me getting in my car. If there's somebody else, I'll go next.
Oh, all good. Hey, Felipe, what's up, buddy?
What's up, JD?
How goes it, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Quick question. So I have my scope of work, right? And we have our GC. We went through all the steps. I'm curious to understand standard timelines for specific, projects that are being done, right? So, you know, how long should a backslash being removed and installed take, or how long should tile take, and things of that nature, just so we have like a 3-month timeline. So well, it's fully cosmetic, nothing drastic, but I just want to get a feel for how much these tasks typically take for the most part.
It depends. So drywall, that takes a little bit longer because it's got to dry, cure. Typically like drywall is going to take us, depending on the size of house and what we're doing. But like, let's say it's just a patch job, cosmetic, and we're doing one room. Typically the drywall is going to take at least 2 to 3 days because it takes them a day to hang. Then they got to mud it, let it dry, then texture it, and then re-primer it. So it's like a 4-step process in there. Tile, depending on that, all depends on the design of tile you're putting in. If it's subway tile, it should take 1 day to put it all in, grout it, done. If you're doing like herringbone and some cool custom stuff, that's where it takes them a lot longer to set, and it could be about a 2-day job. I will say tile has actually slowed down quite a bit. It's taken a lot longer than it used to, but it's also because we're putting in a lot more intricate patterns. But what specifically, I guess, items are you talking about, like timeline wise?
Yeah, so from a cosmetic standpoint, we're just gonna paint the interior of the house the specific coat of white. We're replacing all the tile, removing all the carpet, and just doing tile throughout the whole house, which is like 1,200 square feet. We're not doing any drywall, so to speak, but we are gonna replace like all the doors, all the handles, the front door, stuff like that, like a true cosmetic renovation, just to get our feet wet a little bit.
Okay, so basically you're doing flooring, tile, millwork, paint,
Yeah.
cabinets, and then kind of back to more like nothing's really changing. You're just pulling the stuff out and putting it back in.
Yeah, we're just modernizing. We with our designer, essentially. She's gonna give us our design this week, and yeah, we're just gonna modernize the style of the home because it's a pretty old brick home. So, just doing really pure cosmetic stuff to it. Yeah, and then plumbing. Yeah, that's the only non-cosmetic item that we're working on.
Okay, that kind of house typically is going to take about 4 to 5 weeks. If there's not a lot moving on, because demo should be like 2 days, demo it, pull it out, put it back in, and then it's all about how you stack the guys from there. So if you're not moving anything around, like as soon as we demo out, next thing that we're really getting ready is we make any little modifications we need to move it, but then flooring starts going in. We have flooring and tile start working at the same time because they can start tiling the bathrooms as the floors go down. And so you want to start with the ground, floor goes in. Once floor's in, then millwork can go in. And as millwork's going in, cabinets can go in. And so the nice thing about not moving mechanicals is you can kind of stack people on top of each other. And so it's more about the general, just kind of stacking it. And so what I would do is ask your general for, hey, give me a schedule for the next 6 weeks of what this is going to look like and who's working on what during the week. Because sometimes we have to tell them a little bit like, hey, can you also put this guy here at the same time? We don't want to lose weeks.
Got it. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Donnie, and then Nicole.
All right, thanks, James. I'm so glad to be back. As a fun note, I got to implement subbing out my GC subs for the first time, which has gone really well and saved me like 50 grand. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
The first time he saved you 50 grand?
Yeah. He just came back, like, he was like, oh, we'll paint the whole house for 20 grand. And I was like, there's no shot I'm paying 20 grand for you to paint this house. And so I was like, can I just swap them out? Do you care? I'll still pay you your fee. He's like, yeah, that's fine. Swapped them out, saved a bunch of money. The work's still the same quality. It's perfect.
Hey,
Um,
that's always a win.
yeah, it was a huge win. So I wanted to shout out, thanks. That was a really great learning. But I guess mine's more philosophical. I have a really large capital backing.
Okay.
And I have been working with a few of these partners already, so that's why they're bringing more money to the table and they want to do more. But think I guess mine's more about like the current economic climate and like how you are thinking about your business and how you hedge your bets in a scenario like this. Because I think when I'm working with so much of somebody else's money, I I don't I feel like more inclined to make sure that everyone is whole. Whereas if it's mine, I'll I have more risk tolerance, I guess. So I guess like how do you think about?
You're more afraid to lose someone else's money than to lose your own.
Oh, I mean, yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I don't think that changes my approach. I mean, I think in a scenario like this, my thinking is like business as business. People still need to buy homes, but I guess like how do you think about your business? And I know that you're primarily doing it all with your own business's funds, but how do you think about your business and like hedging your bets? Or are you even thinking about that? Does that even come to mind? Like, where are you guys at right now?
Oh no, I'm a 2008 investor, so it's always in
Right.
the back of my mind. Yeah, when you get rocked like you do in 2008, you remember it and you make some changes. So a couple things on that. So yes, you guys, when we're raising capital, right? Because a lot of people are raising money in, that's where the risk is, right? When we have more debt against properties, and we always want to be careful about that, because when the market can turn, and it can turn fairly quickly sometimes, like when rates shot up, the market adjusted pretty fast. At least in the Pacific Northwest, it was not good. And so these events can happen. And so, always be careful with leverage. I was talking to another person that was doing very well in our group, has rocked a couple deals. Now they want to go do like 6 deals at it. I'm like, well, hey, if you want to do that, do what you want to do. Here's your growth. But you got to think about too, with how you're leveraging. If you have 6 projects going on and there's any sort of market hump and they all go down 5%, you could be cutting checks across the board and you might not have the money to do that. And so, we kind of talked about it. And she's like, you know what? I think I'm going to stick with, maybe I'll go to 4 instead of 6, because in case something happens, she can kind of cover that with reserves, because that does happen. What do I think with the market? It depends on the market that they're in. So I guess a good exercise I'm doing right now is I'm looking in Arizona, right? To start this business down there. I'm also just bought a house in Newport Beach, which is very expensive, right? So these are other ends of the spectrums. I do think that there is risk in this market, especially if you're going to be on that higher echelon of pricing in any market. The best thing that you guys can flip in right now is, it doesn't matter what the price is, it's just the median home price and the affordability for the area that you're in. That stuff has been moving fine, and it continues to move even in slow markets, and it always moves because when the markets transition, the more affordable stuff sells. And so one thing I've been pretty conscious on is I'm not trying to be at the top end of the value on everything. So like in Seattle, the sweet spot's kind of 1.4 to 1.6 for like a 2,500 square foot house. I'm targeting homes, and doesn't matter what price, so I'm paying $9 to $1 million for these houses, but that's the price point I'm targeting because they have the best absorption rate and the best buyers. And so no matter what, we're going to go through transitions, but there's always a sweet spot to every market. And so look at, like right now in Arizona, I don't really like what I'm seeing. There's a lot of inventory there, a lot of expensive inventory for the stuff that I was going to go flip. Instead of going, oh, well, Arizona's market's a little shaky right now, instead I go, well, I don't like these price points. I'm going to look in different areas, and I want to be in the median home price of these other areas because they're selling really well. And so, I would focus on the median home price of the markets that you're in. Don't be on that upper echelon. Newport Beach, I just contracted, we're gonna be flipping that for 10 million. That's a huge number. But for Newport Beach, it's actually for that type of buyer, 10 to 15 is kind of the sweet spot. 15 is kind of slow, 10 is really good for whatever reason, even though it's $10 million. And so that's why I pulled the trigger on that, is because that's what was selling in today's market. But then if you look in some of Newport, 5 to 7 is not selling at all. And so I look for where's the absorption rates and what is selling for the most frequently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I guess like even in 2008, I wasn't buying homes in 2008. Spoiler alert. Were you still moving at any inventory? Like what was that like? What was that experience like?
In 2008? Well, when the
Yeah,
market
exactly.
Oh man, when the market turned, now we were flipping a lot in 2008, 9, and 10. And so we were selling, and when we would buy a property during that time, after it already kind of went over the waterfall, or was still going down the waterfall, we actually used to comp homes. And let's say the house we were comping it today at 300 grand. We would anticipate that it'd be worth 10% less by the time we went to flip it. Here we go.
Well-
Okay. It was in a rapidly falling market though. And so it was, and then that's how, and we go, okay, well, if it sells for 10% less and we are still making just a little bit of money, even if it's 4 grand, 5 grand, we'll do that deal. And if it didn't hit that 10% less, we wouldn't do it at all. And that did work for us. I mean, but back then also when we were flipping houses, it'd be like 15 to 20 grand is what you'd make on a house. And that was like crushing. You were doing awesome. So like there wasn't much variance in there either. When it started going in a free fall, that was like an economic collapse of banking. And so I don't know if we're going to see that again. I hope not. And that was like, there was nothing good going on, to be honest. I chased the market down. One thing I do know is if it goes into that kind of spiral, get ahead of the dropping and just cut to where you're the first person to sell. Because there was a couple houses I just chased all the way down. I probably would have sold them for like 40, 50 grand more if I just would have got ahead of it. But I just chased the market all the way down. But you guys, I don't see that happening. When we saw rates shoot up at the highest we've ever seen, there was definitely impact, but the impact actually should have been a lot worse than we saw. And so, I don't foresee that coming at this point. And if you do, I would say don't invest right now, right? If that's really your true belief, I would not invest. I believe that you can invest in any type of market. You just want to focus on the sweet spots. And the sweet spots are where the affordability is, cost of living is too high, where's the most traction, and where's the best absorption rate. I don't care what price points are, that's where I want to focus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys, I think the market's going to be fine. I mean, shit, it better be. I just bought a lot of property. But I think it's fine. I mean, the fact that it hasn't broken in half from rates being as high right now, that shows me it's pretty dependable. But you want to be cautious on your margins. We're not going in, I think you got to make sure your comps are good. You don't speculate your comps. We don't factor in appreciation. We make sure that the margin's there. We don't break that rule. If it doesn't hit our margin, we don't buy. And the reason we set that margin expectation is if the market does correct, the margin gets eat first, not me. And so, that's why we just stick very much to our buy box. And I'm always on, hey guys, update your buy box. What's your tolerance for risk?
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank
Nicole.
I had a quick question actually about what Donnie was saying. I totally missed. How did he save all that cash?
Save all that cash.
Just by
Yeah,
like
he was
sending
saying-
out.
I
Like-
didn't save any cash. I've been working with a lot of partner investors, and because they
Oh.
like the returns, they're just bringing a lot more money to the table now.
Was it someone else? I thought it was someone I thought you said something at the beginning about, was it swapping out your subs?
Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, swapping out my subs with So my GC came
Oh.
back. He gave me a bunch
She
of
wants to
things.
know
and
about
then
the 50 grand savings on your construction.
Yes.
So she doesn't care where
Yes.
your money is, Donnie. She wants to know how you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was just I was taking what we learned in the class of just like asking my contractor if I can provide my own subs and just still pay him
Okay.
his rate. And yeah, it ended up saving me like 50 grand.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank-
So my question, James, and this is like very much a hypothetical. I'm about to send our contract out to our GC. He said he's fine using our paper. So I adapted your contract to California and I was going to send it to him. And I anticipate, where do you find you get the most pushback with contractors? I imagine the late penalty is one of them. Would love to know like where you find you get the most pushback and how you kind of approach that.
Well, so, well, the daily rate penalty, I sometimes get pushback, but when I deliver the message to them, I make it sound like a positive. And so when we're going over that, I got great news for you. If you get your project done fast, I'm going to pay you $300 a day for every day that you make it. So I never say, hey, if you're late, you're getting charged this. That's how I bring it to them. Is, hey, so here's our completion date, and I got good news. You're supposed to be done on March 30th, and if you get it done any day before, you get 300 or whatever my daily rate charge is going to be. You're going to get $350 every day that you're done early.
Got
Like,
it. Okay.
great.
Because that's
And,
not in the contract. So do you add that into the contract?
you can definitely write that in. I have not put that in. You know what? Actually, it's randomly no contractors ever asked me to write that in. Bizarrely.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna actually ask you if you provide a bonus if they finish early. So you're saying that whatever rate you're gonna charge them if they're late, you would actually give that to them if they're early, the same number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it saves us that interest, right?
Yeah.
It's the same
Yeah,
thing.
it
And we're
saves you-
basically calculating what our costs are and saying this is not trying to penalize you here, but this is purely what my costs are if you go over. So similarly, I'm then going to give you pass those savings on to you if you finish early.
Yeah, and then because it also it has to be a win-win, right? Like it's got to be
Right.
fair. And so if they're done early, I'm stoked. And so the deal's going even faster. A lot of times I'll even throw a bigger bonus at that, like especially if we're going into like let's say we're like spring's wrapping up right now. I want to make sure I'm getting houses done April 30th or sooner if I can. So I'm throwing $5,000 bonuses at people. Like, hey, if you get it done by this date, I'll give you $5 grand.
Right.
And so because hitting the market timing is way better on those specific houses.
Right.
And so I always try to deliver it in the fairness way. And the fairness way is I got good news for you. This is how I'm treating you well by doing it this way. Oh, and by the way, this is a two-way street. So if you are late, you're gonna have to pay me though.
Right. Okay.
And so it's that it really does help.
Got it. Okay. I like that. Any other areas where you find you get pushback?
From contractors,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, they push back on everything. Budgets, budgets for sure. And then we kind of go through just line by line to see what's going on there. They always push back on budgets. They always do push back on timelines. Part of it will say, well, I can't control the permitting, and say, no, that's totally fine. If the timeline goes long because of permits, then just send me a text or an email saying, hey, we have a permit delay. It's causing a 2-week delay. That's covered in the contract. It extends it for you.
Yeah, we saw that wording in the contract about like just kind of removing the time of any delays not caused by the contractor themselves. Okay, so that kind of takes care of late timing, early timing. Another question I have is like, how can you really specifically spell out change orders in your contract and like how those are handled?
Well, change orders it is in the contract, but a change order is a change in scope of work, right? So it's something that was missed on the original scope, right? Like maybe it was that you decided to go from a single vanity sink to a double vanity sink in your primary. That's a change order because it's a change in scope of work, right? And that's why the original scope of work is so important. And so the change order is they need to send a request for what is happening, what the cost is with a dollar amount, and how long it's going to delay the schedule. And so it's just a change. I guess can you clarify a little bit about like, because the change is just not on the quote. Are you talking about like if they try to charge and you think it might be on the quote?
I mean, our quote is pretty detailed in terms of like what we want done, like double sync vanity, like island, this many light fixtures, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just trying to cover where we're missing something, like how, like
Well, I mean,
we don't know what we
that would
don't
be the
know kind of thing.
unexpected then.
Yes.
It's I would say that is the unexpected, because if you go through and you're like, hey, everything that we talked about is on this list, then we're covered. I mean, but the unexpected will happen. I mean, does it cover all trim out, like all materials are included in there, all labor? Does it have, you know, I would almost just go room by room, right? Like kitchen, okay. Does it have cabinets, hardware, countertops, tile, appliances, everything in there? You know, and I always ask too, the contractor is, hey, what's excluded from this?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think we already asked that, but we'll double check that again.
But I would
Um,
say the rest of it's going to be just stuff that you missed, or you open up a wall, it's rot, or there's some sort of issue.
Okay. And then for the payment schedule, do you typically have them build that based on how they're going to kind of front load the work, or like how in the order? Because like this is the one thing that I'm not sure of, is like in what order they're going to kind of do the work. And obviously I want to build the payment schedule in order in relation to what work needs to be completed. So that's one thing where I'm like, how should I do this payment schedule?
Well, the payment schedule, yes, I would ask to say, hey, what is your draw schedule over? Because one thing I like to do is take that draw schedule and then bring it to my lender as a construction draw schedule, because going, hey, this is what they're saying they're going to complete in this time frame and what the money they need is, because the lender could have a different draw schedule than your contractor, and that's where you guys get jammed up on your construction funds. And so what I would do is I would get his ask on the draw schedule, and it really should be like on his total bid, it should be like 10% down for demo and prep. And then it should go like 20%, 20%, 20%, and the last 10 at finish. We usually break it into 5 draws.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, because my concern with breaking it out weekly was just like, that's kind of difficult, because then it's like, it's hard to prove, like, did you actually do 20% of the work, you know, where it's like, well, you might end up ahead in terms of payment schedules, because it's kind of hard to verify. Are you like, have you actually completed 20% versus like, oh, this was going to be specifically for rough-in electrical, rough-in plumbing, and demo, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it should be covered in demo. You know, some of that is a little bit of contractors also do things differently too. Like some of my guys, I'm like, why are you installing that right now? But that's just the way they do it.
Right, right.
You know, they're setting cabinets before floors go in, and I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, no, this is the way that we do it. And as long as it's not a quality issue, I don't care. And so I would get the draw schedule from them, but I wouldn't do weekly. Weekly's a nightmare. I would do percentage of completion, and it should be, you know, like 10% down, 20%, 20%, 20%, and then the final. Oop, Nicole, you there?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm here. I'm just dealing with a toddler who's also pulling at
Oh,
me.
no, all good. Yeah, so I would get it from him and submit it to the lender, and then they'll give you feedback too, because you don't want to be off track on that. And the
Okay.
good news is, if his draw schedule is too aggressive, the lender is going to be like, no, we need to do it this way. You can just be like, hey, this is the lender. This is the way they do it.
Okay.
And it kind of puts you on, takes you off the hot seats.
Okay, yeah. I was just working on the contract to send to him, so that makes sense. I will put it in. I'll suggest it that way in the contract, and then just see kind of what the feedback is from them.
Yeah, no, I think that's by far will make it easy for you.
Okay.
All right. I got more questions. I'm gonna hit a couple. Alex says, the home I'm working on may have rat issue. She said, do I need to, if I'm going studs down, do I even need to treat for the smell? If you're going studs down, typically you're gonna be pretty good, but you still might wanna just spray the studs real quick with just a sprayer or deodorizer. It will take, a couple hours at most and not cost very much. I like to be preventative on it. Like that project shit level that we did where the septic backed up in. I actually ended up killing the whole basement out to seal it in, and it cost me probably 3 to 4 grand, but I just wanted to do it to make sure it was done right and get the smell out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael. Sorry, guys. Michael was trying to raise his hand. He just didn't quite have it firing off, and then we're gonna keep hammering through the list. Oh, Michael, you're on mute, I think. Mhm.
Does this help?
There we go. Now I got you.
I had the wrong selected. Yeah, so I had a contractor. I was doing wiring. We had knob and tube, and there was an inspection report. It did mention it, and we didn't really budget for replacing it. But when we got in there and the electrician started looking at stuff, he said it looks fairly corroded. I definitely recommend you take care of this. Otherwise, you've got half knob and tube and half to a panel, because there's a 200 amp panel there.
Yep.
So I made the decision to go ahead and do it. I'm not as versed with it in safety issues, but corrosion to me in wires is not a good thing. And I wasn't sure with the amount of outlets we were adding to put it up to kind of to code there, that whether the knob and tube could handle it, and I just didn't feel comfortable, so I elected to go ahead and do it, have it done, and it put me just a hair over my budget. I got a good deal, but still, that was money I wasn't expecting to spend. Should I, at what point do you decide not to do anything or to go ahead and replace?
So it's hard too, because when you corroded knob and tube, it's a safety concern and it can jeopardize financing, but it also depends on what you're selling. What price point house and where's the location on this one?
Oh, this is down in Tacoma.
Okay,
Well,
down in Tacoma.
Yeah, it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Okay, got it. So on that kind of property, it kind of depends on the comps. What's the value on that? Is it around 350?
Yeah, that'll be the ARV around 350, maybe 360 at the most, I think. Well, depending on the market there, but there's not a lot of comps right now that finding for that, because it is only a 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Yeah, and a lot of them are a little beat up down there too.
Yeah, and it was built in 35.
So what I would say on that, like I'd have to look at the comps a little bit better, but typically I'm going to rewire for what the comps are selling for. And so if I'm putting together the scope and I'm seeing outlet prongs are 2 throughout the comps, not 3 grounded, I'm going to go, well, people buying at this price point know they're not getting a brand new house with wiring. And so typically that is what I'm going to be doing, is not touching it unless I really need to based on the comps. Now, if I have that small of a house though, and half of it's already wired with Romex and it needs, that's such a small amount of wiring, I'm probably just going to tackle it because it's, and that's, if the electrician gives me a big quote, I'm gonna be like, dude, what are you charging me for, man? This is a small house, half of it's already done. We're talking about running 20 feet of circuit wire.
Yeah, it's probably more than that. It's probably 2/3 of it is still on knob and tube. I got quotes from 14, 12, 10. I ended up the one I accepted was 9 to do all new outlets, everything to code.
9,000 for 500 square feet?
Well, so all the outlets were in the floorboards.
Okay.
And so he said we need to move those up, and half of them weren't grounded. So
Jeez. The small
I
house
may have made a bad decision, but I didn't feel safe moving forward the way it was.
I don't
So-
think you made a bad decision. I'm just what you guys, so in that scenario, this is a good thing to highlight right now, right? Because electricians, we'll get 3 quotes and we go, okay, we got these 3 quotes. There's always going to be the really high quote where it's like, all right, this is 10,000, crazy. And then another one will be half, and then there's gonna be the lowest quote, and then we're gonna go, okay, we want to engage with the lowest quote guy. And then in the back of our brain, we're going, well, he's the lowest quote. I should probably just not rock the boat with him much. But it's still negotiable based on logic, is how I'm like, so with that lowest quote, I'm gonna go, all right. You said it was 9,000?
Yeah, he was the most thorough.
Yeah.
He was, well, he's actually given me, in his opinion, he's given me a deal. And
Okay.
according to the other contractors are out there, he definitely is. But he was the most comprehensive in what he said he was going to do.
So
how he
let's
put
break
it
that
together.
back for a second, though.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's a bad guy at all.
No,
But I would say, okay, so hey, electrician, you say you're giving me a deal. Can you explain why? Because like,
I actually know the guy.
okay,
He's not a friend. It was a friend of my brother who passed about 3 years ago. My twin, and he knew him, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. I actually sold him a Jeep, and so anyway, he's a licensed plumber and an electrician. I
okay.
know he's going to be a higher cost than a lot of these guys. The hardest part I had was getting the subcontractors to get their electricians out there, because most of them were doing side jobs. They're either commercial and doing it under their bond or whatever. They're licensed, but not their own company.
Yes, yeah, they'll
And-
be
And they were still high.
yeah, and they will, especially they'll throw numbers at it, and it's about you guys. A lot of this is just just keep calling, because it's like $9,000. Like, because I know we just rewired a 20.
And that's doing some new lights, and we're moving, I don't know, we're resetting up where the washer dryer was. There's a hot water heater that is being moved outside to give us some space. So there's other things besides just the rewire. There's additional, but still it's more than I planned for.
Yeah, it's and that's where, yeah, because $9,000 for that square footage is a lot. Now, smaller houses, there's they still got to go out there, still got to think, because he's not even replacing the panel either, right?
No, actually, no, the panel, and there's a garage, and it's got a 60 amp panel that's connected to that panel.
Where I would ask, like, if it's a guy new, and I was like, because we just paid, I think it was like 14,000 for a full rewire on a 2,200 square foot with a panel.
Wow.
And so, because a lot of this, especially the small houses, guys, will throw out big numbers, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? And so, like, if someone's like, hey, they're giving me a deal, 9,000, I'll be like, this is how I would negotiate it right out the gate. I'll be like, all right, hey, look, I did not have this in my budget. I know that's not your problem. It's a small house, 500 square feet. Can we break down this 9,000 where the cost is going? Because the material cost for him to run 50% of the wire for that house is going to be maybe $1,000.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is, hey, electrician, how many days do you think you're going to be here roughing this in? I'm like, oh man, this is a lot more money I thought. But like, I just can't help me understand these costs. Hey, how many days do you think it's going to take you? And then how many days to trim it out? It'll be maybe 2 days to do the inside wire, 1 day to trim it out. And then I'm going to go, okay, well, and what do you think the material costs are on this? Like, to trim out this house is probably like $600. The wire is going to be like another 1,000. So let's say round up to $2,000 for materials. I got a question, and I do this in a joking way. I'm like, I got a question. So are you telling me if I go get licensed as an electrician, I can make $2,000 to $3,000 a day? Or I'll break it down hourly and say, hey, look, okay, well, if you're making $2,000 a day, divide that by 8, like, so, hey, or as I'm doing the math in my brain, I'll ask them, hey, what's your hourly rate? And I try to back it that way. in with
I
them.
do that with most of the contractors in knowing that because they don't break it down that way. And if you break it down, you can catch them where they're not
Yeah.
being,
Cause they throw mud at the walls all the time.
yeah,
And they're just asking. And so I try to break it down logically, like, hey, dude, I'm really trying to figure this out. You got 3 days of work. I'm way over budget. Hey, because an electrician typically is 120 to 130 bucks an hour.
what I thought.
And so it's like, hey, if it's only gonna take you 3 days, like I'm trying to figure out where all the money's going, not to beat you up. I'm not trying to complain. I'm just over budget and I did not have this line item. So I'm trying to control the costs. You got to charge a fair wage for yourself and make money on this. I get that. But how I'm looking at this based on you told me 3 days worth of work, the material cost, it's like 250 to 300 bucks an hour. And I thought electricians were like 150 an hour at the high side. Are you sure that we don't have any room in this? And then they'll start coming backwards. That's how I always negotiate it. It's never like I need it for cheaper. It's just like, hey man, I'm trying to wrap my brain around this because I'm in deep shit here.
Yeah.
And try to work it backwards that way, because then that's where they'll buck on the number more. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, I can probably shave, even if they're shaving $1,000 off or 2,000. It's like that's a huge win. And
Yeah,
so that's how
I definitely have to get a few more going through this and getting more bids, but that was the hardest thing, was trying to get an electrician out there, because a lot of the subs don't have them in their pocket. They know a guy that they use, and so
yeah.
I just need to get better resources.
And it's one of those too, you guys. You always want to have 3 to 4 electricians that 3 to 4 HVAC guys, 3 to 4 plumbers. Because if they're busy, you get an F off price where they're going to get,
Yeah.
I just had a furnace guy quote me, and I've known for years. He quoted me $38,000 for a furnace system, and I've probably given him 500 furnace systems over my life for the whole heating system he bid out. He's like, it is the great deal, James. I'm hooking you up. He's trying to get, our other quote came in at 24,000. And I've known this guy for 24,000 for 2 years. I've known this guy for 15 years. I've gone to Seahawk games with them, all these things, but he's telling me it's the greatest deal in the world. And then he got pissed that we didn't give it to him. I'm like, dude, it's a $10,000. I can't pay $10,000 more. And now on the next quote, he'll come down, right? So it's like, because he's busy. And then when he's not busy, he'll cut his pricing down. Or like, my most expensive electrician is actually my cheapest electrician when he has to fill a gap. Because you got to keep his guys working. He'll be like, hey, I'll call me, I'll wire whatever you need. Let me know the price, I'll get it done. And so that's, you guys, we're always looking for the gap fillers. Because your electrician today won't be for your next job if he's busy.
Right.
So I think you did the right thing. I think you fixed it. You also want to keep your project moving forward and knock it out with it. But it's, yeah.
That was part of my paranoia, and I figured if I can get this done, because he can get it done within the next week, it's a small place, so I should be out of here in about 3 weeks.
And there's a cost, right? You're gonna be paying a couple $100 a day in interest. And if you're
and it actually, if I do that, I had myself budgeted for 4 months of hold time, and if I can get out in 3 or 2.5, that helps to make up for some of that.
Yeah, it covers most of that expense. And then the other thing I would do if you have a creep right now is audit what you can with your listing broker on, can you cut anything back on finishes? Because but can you switch up the flooring to like a clearance floor that's 99 cents for that price point?
Yeah.
It's because I think in your budget will probably be a little bit higher than that. And so like if you can pick up $1 on your flooring, that's $500-600 right there. Or if you pick up $2, it's $1,000, and start auditing that, because it is an affordable price point. You don't want to jeopardize style, but you can get, I would clearance shop on that.
Yeah, I definitely value engineering as much as I can.
Yeah. So, and
All
just
right,
honor
cool,
that
thank
through and
you.
lean on your broker on that. AJ,
Hey James, how's it
what's up,
going?
buddy? How are you?
Good, good. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. You've been doing projects.
Yeah, working on them, and I'm in the middle of one right now. That's the one I got a question on. So, speaking of all GCs and all this stuff that we were talking about with contracts, dealing with a difficult one right now.
Okay.
Some of them are easier than others, and this one, communication gap. Uh, so try to phone him up, doesn't respond often, and is always late. I guess what's new there, but like some of them are a lot more punctual than others. This one's particularly late, and just trying to find like motivations for this GC in particular, and because we're dealing with the permitting on this one flip, and I think whatever he did in submitting it, so he had submitted it, uh, made it run pretty late. So we're just now like getting through the reviews of the permitting. And if I went back,
Is this for an ADU?
no, it's just
Okay.
a regular CFI like construction permit.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was like it's been taking a while since I was pinging him on it. I was bugging his staff on it, and it's just like finally we're getting through now the reviews this week. But it's been over like 2+ months on it, and so a large portion of that time I was looking through the history was like this intake time, and so one question I had, well, really two parts of the question. One is on the permitting part, and then one is like negotiating with the GC to get like things done effectively.
Yeah.
Because knowing more about the permitting process can put me in like the driver's seat in terms of like driving them to do things on time. Right now, they have an understanding like, oh, okay, whatever they're saying, they're telling me, and so like I have to verify. Like I have to go to like the city, and I'm like checking with the city or checking with a few others in the group and stuff to kind of verify what he's saying. But him also knowing that, like I don't know as much about the permitting process puts him in, that kind of advantage where he can say whatever. So that's one part of it, is really just kind of like what are things, especially when I'm not as adversed into like the details of what's needed in the permitting process and what things are going to take more time than others, how to deal with that with the GC like that.
So, you guys, one thing that I do is I don't allow my generals to permit for me
Mm.
because I feel like they can come up with more excuses. And so I don't have them do it. I have my architect do it because that used to happen to me all the time. I'm like, hey, what's going on? There's a reason, or I got a builder right now. I'm like, what's going, like, why are we at this right now? Like, it's too long. And they always have a million reasons though. And so, and you can't really know at the end of the day. And so uh, first, I wouldn't give your generals any more permit unless it's just like a true over the counter. I let them pull their plumbing permits, their electrical, but the building permit we get ourselves now.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Which is this, Magnolia or the other one?
Yeah.
Okay, Magnolia.
Yep.
I can't remember which. You don't need to say what general you're using. I typically like to get in. The other reason I like to give it myself too is the generals can say stupid shit in the permitting office and get it put into a way longer review. Whereas, like if I'm going in there, I used to do everything in my house myself, like on napkins. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. And they give me the permit, and they would say these things. I'm like, why did you say that? That's not even what we're doing. And they were like almost trying to make it seem like they were doing more work and it was this good job, but then it just triggered a bunch of things. I'm like, what do we do? So I would take it away from him. How much does he permit in general typically? Like, does he have his own as-built guy, or like how is he doing the permits?
He's working with the architect to do, like get the as-built, but also do the plans. So that's who we work with through his,
Okay.
not on his team, but he goes to like a third party. But he's like from my understanding, he does go through the process. My understanding is also he worked on somebody else's in the groups and took a little longer as well. So as I'm kind of like pulling more and more information about him, realizing that yeah, maybe like his process is just really long, or whatever he's putting in there is just like you said, like he either put too much information or he's just doing things late. Like he's not like submitting submitting applications for like the appointments on time and so those are things I caught. Like I was asking the city, I was chatting with the city about this earlier. They wouldn't provide like specifics, but I'm going to go back to them again, like chat with them some more to find out exactly where, if they can provide anything. But what I'm kind of guessing is that like he just did things late in the process, or he provided some information, like you said, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of where things are going. So that's where it's at. But I'm just trying to like keep him to it as well, without him kind of pushing us around on this one.
Well, and what I would say is like, I would have a conversation like, hey man, we lost some time here. You know, what do you think we can do to make it up? Is there any way you can help me out with a couple things? Like, it's just like start the conversation with him now. You don't have to go in for the kill on it.
Yeah.
Just like, man, it just we're kind of jammed up. We're paying a lot in interest, and then it sounds like it kind of got dragged out. It's just kind of killing us. How do we keep the same? Because you also want to just make sure you're keeping that moving forward.
Yeah.
And just kind of stay on him. And then as the permit's almost issued, I would be like, hey man, we lost all this time. What do you think we can do about this? Because a month on a house like that, that's like $8,000 a month.
It is, yeah, exactly.
And it's like, and part of it could be the architect he hired too, because they're been not great either. That's why we always are pricing different. I'm like, sometimes they take forever. And just I would just kind of have a conversation like, hey, we lost $8,000. Where do you think we can make this up on the budget? But have a calm, like just like, how do we work this out and figure this out as a group, like together? Because this is a problem for me now. And, depending on how he reacts, then we can talk about how we kind of pin him back.
Yeah, like there's some people who react, kind of like take ownership, and then there's those who don't very well. And so that's what I'm trying to navigate, really. It's like, some people take ownership of a situation. Like he was late this morning, 45 minutes when we were like, hey, be on time today. Stuff like that. And then he still didn't take ownership of like being late. I was like, really? So yeah, there's those kind of people. So that's the part I'm trying to navigate through a little bit without getting like pissed off at him always.
Yes, because it's easy to do with contractors. And so what I do is I have a million guys like that I still use.
Yeah.
But then we just kind of take away the options to get. That's why we do our own plans, or we'll like, I just put the roof on because I don't need you to put the roof on. And tell me the delay is because I just hired a roofer. It's cheaper than you, and now it's on. And so we start taking things away from them and kind of work off of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say give them less control of the whole site. So we do keep control of permits, trade. Sometimes it's even ordering materials because I'm like, hey, we gave you the spec sheet, but you ordered it a month late. Now it's back ordered. That kind of stuff does happen quite often. And so I would just take more away. But unfortunately, you guys, everybody, contractors, they are stretched out. They're always looking for more work. Even if they're stretched out, they will take more work. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and like, oh, hey, I called this guy. I'm like, hey, man, remember I gave you to them as a favor. You said you wouldn't call him. He's like, I just had this small job. He said he needed lots of work. I'm like, he is behind schedule at 5 houses of mine. He's like, oh, shit. And I was like, it's because they will always take on more work without knowing. And so, just keep working on other resources too, and they keep going through the process, and then kind of like, let's have a conversation of how we can pick it up. And then, when you get there too, we can look at your bid and go, okay, here's some spots where he was pretty juiced up. And then we can go, hey, like, do you think you can get the drywall down? It's a little high. I didn't want to beat you up on it. I want to get going, but now that lost us $8,000. Do you think we can pick up some cost here or get upgrades thrown in? They usually won't give you money back, but you can get them to do more. So we can kind of look at some little upgrades around the house.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, hey, they'd rather do the work than give the money back.
Yeah.
And try to pin them in that way, whether it's like gates or some fencing or some curb appeal stuff, you can get them to throw in.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to like find like, enough kind of evidence like through that, like you know, whether talking to city, those kind of things, like data points where I could be like, hey, look, you know, all we know that like your process is added time to this, but you know, we're just trying to get back, like we're just trying to make sure that we're on time. And so like I'll try that as well, see what else he can kind of throw in there. It's just kind of like his work that's gonna like maybe bring more value to the property or something.
Yeah, that's what we'll try to jam them. That's always my thing. Jam them with more things to offset the cost. Like if a guy breaks a window, they don't want to pay for the window. But I'm like, all right, well, just do this. And usually it's more than the cost of the window anyways, so it works out.
Yeah.
So we can try to work it that way. But it's hard to get money out of these guys, I will tell you that much.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just trying to like, hey, we need to finish on time. Like we need to do a good job. Those are, you know, as long as we don't waste more time, that's all that. And then just not like getting misinformation, or I know he lied on a couple things so far that we just caught him on. So it's
Well,
like,
he's a contractor.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
whenever they're talking, I mean, you guys, this is just, it doesn't matter. You will always deal with it. It's just, and that's why you guys, you hear me talk about building out your bench all the time.
Yeah.
We're always looking for more guys because we had the best power we have on the contractor is to take a job away and go, you know what? I gave it to somebody else. Or like I just did that to a guy that was late and he's like, hey, I thought you were going to get me a cosmetic job. I'm like, yeah, but I gave it to this guy over here. I was like, dude, you haven't even fixed my heater at this house. I got to get this thing listed. And he's like, oh no. And he got mad. And I'm like, what are you mad about? Get your stuff done. And then
Yeah.
all my stuff got done immediately. It's like, and so that's the best power you can have is just keep building that bench up.
That's helpful.
And then once it's there, we can talk about how we can kind of tie them into getting some extra things done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's the most frustrating part of this job, guys, will be that. I will
Yeah.
tell you, it's
Thanks.
contractors and salespeople. So,
James,
Marina.
so one question on
Oh.
that. If you don't have an architect, how do you differentiate which permits you would like your contractor to pull versus which ones you would pull?
Well, we only pull the building permit, the general, and then our trades pull the plumbing, the electrical, and everything else because those are all usually over the counter. The building's the one that can get stalled up, and so we want control of that building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Marina. Are you there?
Yes.
Hey,
Hello, how
ya?
are you? Good. I have
Okay,
a baby over
I-
here.
I need to know what's going on with your house.
Oh, not good.
What's
So
going on there? I literally
we
think about it all the time. Every time I see your name, I'm like, I need the update.
we pulled it off market and decided to kind of give it a cool off. Days on market were getting pretty high, so we decided Jan was going to be the month since it tends to be dead in that market where the house is at least. Based on the data that we pulled, we put it back on market about almost 3 weeks ago, and I got a new realtor, to your advice. The one that
Okay.
was, there before did not have the experience, nor were they doing what they had to do to support on their realtor responsibility. So we have a new realtor. He's actually really good. I have him pull all the stats and all the data that you've said to me before. Comparable actives, what activity are they having, how many showings are they having, and we compare it to ours, and we're tracking what the market's doing. It has been a tad soft comparatively, from what we've seen before, just data wise, and buyer sentiment towards the property is clearly not the best, but unfortunately that mixed with the market. So what we have noticed in that market specifically is it has corrected.
Okay.
And so we now are dealing with
And
two
what does
very
correction mean? What is the compression like? Like so in Arizona right now, what I'm seeing is in certain everything's selling for 7 to 9% off list, no matter what. And
Mhm.
then it's down about 5% from a year ago, price per square foot.
So percentage wise, I wouldn't be able to pull that off like right now off the top of my head. I don't know.
Okay.
He sent me a report comparatively to last year, showing me the amount of supply that is up in the market compared to the same time last year, and also the price drop just at median home price in that area compared to last year. And so
Yeah.
he sent me the whole chart just within pulling back 12 months, data. So unfortunately we have those two things mixed, which was the perfect recipe to put us in a just terrible situation. But my question for you was going to be more of advice in terms of, I know I saw your speech at BPCon, and I've seen a couple interviews from you before, and you've spoken about situations where you've been in a situation where you pretty much lost it all, right? And
Yeah.
you had to rebuild, right? And this would have been our sixth, well, I mean, it is technically our sixth flip in the last 2 years, but we would invest everything that we would make in the hopes that would return, faster growth, right? And that was working perfectly fine until we hit this flip. And that is clearly a problem because now we are projected to lose everything that we had, right?
Okay. And so the list price again, what was the list price he suggested?
So currently we started at 850,000, and 2 weeks have gone by. We have been below showing average comparatively to all of the other actives that we have. And so they were averaging 6 to 7 showings a week. We averaged 4, 4, and 2. So we've dropped the price now to 825,000, and that has not moved activity. And even worse, there's actually houses that are comparable. I mean, I'm talking like 3 streets down, like years, square footage, the type. I mean, they are comparable, and they've gone under contract in the 900s. And so
what's the reason? What is your broker saying that's that reason? The 9 versus the 8? Is it because of some of your kind of unique floor plan that's in there with the head height and the flow, or what is like the main objection? And then also, why are you getting half as many showings as everyone else? Is it because some of those people have already looked at your house?
That is a good question. We have a couple repeat parties, but we figured essentially our thoughts were that we weren't at the price point compared to the property. I don't know if the history, because Zillow will still show that it still shows the price history of the house on Zillow. So I don't know if maybe we're suffering from a little bit of that. I don't know. It's kind of hard to answer that question, but to answer your first question, it is the wonkiness of the property, that weird addition at the top that kind of messes with the roof line. And then also the fact that we are technically next to a school. So that was not something that was taken into fact when I went into the deal, as stupid as that sounds, because the school is actually not on the same road. My house is at the end of a dead end street. And then behind the house, when you're looking at the house to the right hand side, that's the dead end of the road. There's a canal, and then there's a small road, and then there's a school. So I just did not think that would be, I didn't comp the house as if it had across the street of a school, because it technically wasn't, but I guess technically it is. So anyway, that seems to be that plus the weirdness of the house seems to be where the buyer sentiment comes from, where they're just not a fan of the house.
Yeah, and so a couple negatives, locational wise by the school. I remember going through that back with you at BPCon, like just the layout and a little bit of head heights, non-traditional. And so, what I don't want you to get into is like a free fall cutting price though, because if the comps are selling for 900, same square footage, same updates, it's the negative impacts that are affecting that property, right? And they're at 900, you're at 8.25, you're actually kind of priced maybe where you need to be because you're 10% less than those for the affordability. But you still have to find the buyer that goes, okay, I'm still cool with these things. I'm getting good value. This is what I can afford. It gets me in the neighborhood.
Right.
The person that usually can finance 900 or someone that's at 850 can usually go to 900. And for the extra couple $100 a month in payment, they'll just go for the house they want. And so, we have to wait for that right buyer and so it's still going to take a little bit because of those, but you're priced well what I would do is have your brokers for your own expectations and peace of mind sometimes too. Have him pull properties, not just right by you, like, but within like a half mile, even maybe a mile, that are on negative impacts, like busy roads, that are next to schools, that have next to an apartment building, next to like those things. And let's look at the days on market for those, because you want to be careful about not overcutting when you have to wait.
Mhm.
Balance. And
Mhm.
if all those houses are selling in 5 days, I'm going to be a little bit more concerned at that point.
Mhm.
But if you have recent comps at 900 and you're selling at 825, that's a good start because you're at least showing value. One thing I would do with your broker is have him make sure that they're leaving those on the counter. I always like to pull those sale comps, pendings, right there for a buyer to walk through to see, because a lot of times the brokers aren't relaying that message on. They're just
Mhm.
going, hey, it's a house that's affordable and it's nice. But they're going, hey, this is a great buy.
Okay. And you
Um,
by properties like that, you mean that are active right now, active listings
oh, did they
that
sell the
have
900s?
the what do
Don't
you
do the
mean?
actives, do the pendings.
The
Did you see
pending? Okay.
a house 3 block or 2 blocks down just went sold at 900 or listed at 900?
They're pending.
Okay,
So
pending.
I got my realtor to call them and see if they would tell us what they went under contract for, but they weren't able to get a hold of anyone yesterday. So we're still to be to be determined on what they're actually under contract for. But they are listed at 950 and the other one was listed in the like 998 or something like that.
Okay, same
So
square footages, same everything.
yeah, I mean one has a room less and the other one has a little bit more square footage than ours, but I mean they're very, very close comps for sure. The other, because
Can you post this in the Facebook page for me too, those
yeah.
comps? And let me look at the
Okay.
photos on those, because there is like, I gotta look at these comps a little better, because I mean, there is like, if there's that big of a delta,
They
and
are. I will say that their backyards are nicer.
okay.
We have a nice backyard. Theirs is a little nicer. But when you'll see it. When I post the comps, you'll see it. It's they have some pavers, but they have no pool. And then the other one does have like a nice
So you
pergola.
think it's
So
more
for
layout and
sure.
flow?
I think so. I think it's
Yeah.
usage of square footage, and I think it's those little touches that are just a little more nice on the outside that called over to those properties.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I
plus
just
the
want,
fact that we have our negatives, doesn't help at all.
no, and I want to just also look at it too. I have tweaked the house after it was sitting for a while, because I'm like, dude, this is just not working. I gotta do this to
Yeah.
fix it. And so I just want to kind of look at their kitchens and their head heights and a couple things. And there might be some cheaper little solutions to help at least get it off the plate rather than cut price. Because you're at the right price according to those comps. You're 10% less.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I had pulled comps that were on across parks, across schools last time you and I spoke, and they were in the 800s, which is where I came up with our current list price of 850 was based off of those comps because those were not even fully renovated, but I went off of their pricing, and so that's how
and
I
then
came up with the new list price was off
do you
those
know how long
properties.
they took to sell?
No, no.
Okay, get that information too, because if you guys, whenever we're in a jam on a property, and it's gonna happen, we want to use like, okay, we don't want to panic because, and you guys, it sucks. You got payments going on, you got people you got to pay. It's not enjoyable. And it's okay. Everyone goes through this. And so, but what we have to do is still make the worst thing that we can have as flippers is a bunch of pressure on us, because it makes us make bad decisions. It's like a salesperson that hasn't sold something in a long time and they need to pay their bills. The desperation starts sweating off them and they can't convert a sale. And so same type of concept where we want to be, and so those are things that we want to check to keep peace of mind, but also to make the right decisions. And so let's get the days on market too, because if they still took a little bit longer, then, it's like, well, we're priced right. How many days is it going to take before I start to get nervous and focus on it? Right now at a sale price of 825, does that clear your debt on the property with your
Not
investors?
private, not private money. It'll
Okay.
clear the hard money.
How many private lenders do you have on the deal?
3.
3, okay. Are they in one bucket, or are they deeds of trust, 3 different separates with different, with
3
different?
separates.
Okay, so there's 3 separate deeds on top of each other, so there is seniority in the deeds.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because typically it'd be however they're recorded has seniority. So what do you think they're going to be short percentage wise out of that total right now?
All of it.
Okay, all of it. Okay.
Yeah. All of
That,
it.
okay, so and how much is that, by the way?
It is 41 plus 20 plus 24,000.
Okay, so about 80 grand. Okay. All right, so the first thing we got to start doing is, if you guys, anybody's in this situation, which people get in these situations all the time, trust me, a lot of people that you probably even recognize I talk to you about these situations, because that's what happens with markets. Conditions happen. It happens to some of the smartest people, the most talented people I know. And so first thing is we got to address the issues head on. Have we had any conversations with these investors about what's going on in the deal?
Yeah, they knew that, they kind of saw it because it hadn't sold yet, and it's a great market, it's a great area, so they were hesitant. And I told them, I was like, listen, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
We're gonna pull the house off the market, put it back on the market. It's a good time of the year. We have good potential. Might be able to get all the ones back to you. But we really don't know, because at this point, I'm going to take the loss first. I'm going to lose all my money first, which I already
Yeah.
have. So that has already happened with the pricing that we're at right now. And so at this point, we just, they know that it's not a good situation, but I think they definitely still had hopes that they were going to get, their money back. And that was my hope as well. But at this point, I don't really see that happening.
Okay, so as the operator, you guys, so when people put money in deals as lenders, there's risk involved there. And, did you sign personal guarantees on those?
One of them.
Okay, one of them. Okay, so that one is going to need to get paid regardless at some point. But, it's also, the question I have to ask too is, like, what do you want to do about it? Like, will you sell it and try to pay them off over time, or do you want to clear the debt? For me, I will always pay people back because that's just the way I'm wired. Some people go, hey, this was a risky thing. You've made interest. The market shut down. I can't do anything about it. Right. And so I think it's important to talk to them now, just have the communication going of saying, hey, look, this is where we're at on the deal. We're going to get through this deal. You have done, because this is your 6th flip. When I met you, you were just listed on this, right? You have the capability. You might have just bought the wrong deal too, right? With the wrong floor plan, the wrong specs, and you have made money on these things. And so the good thing is we can go make more money. And making money, you can pay the people back. And just having that honest conversation with them, like, hey, look, this is what's happening. The first priority is to get this thing sold, and then we can look at this, but there's going to be a shortfall here. And then when we get there, I just want to be transparent with you and where we're at on the thing. I want to take care of this. I can't take care of this today, but we will figure out a plan for this. And the one thing I can let you know as my investor is I will take care of this with you over time, no matter what. Because at the end of the day, they could be wiped out, and that's just the way it goes. That's how a lot of people would handle that. And
I don't want to do that. I want to pay them. I want to pay them back.
And then we will build that plan to do so, right? Then we got to find a new house and find the right house. You have the skill set, you have the people, and we have to build back. And so, but it's good. I just have the conversations now of just like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm going to take care of this. We're going to figure out how to do it once we get the actual numbers in. And regardless, even though I don't have personal guarantee, I'm going to be taking care of this no matter what. And you might have to work out some sort of plan, but we'll get there. And so then it comes down to, we got to generate new income. And that's going to be getting this bad deal off your plate, and focusing on what are we good at. We're going to audit. What is my contractor good at? What is the types of projects? What can I control the costs on? And then we're going to go find one of those deals to make it work for a return. Because
Can
when you lose,
I was gonna say, can I make a suggestion? Have you ever, James, have you ever been in a situation where you've decided to just rent the property out, like, or like refi it and like, because this is a 5 bedroom with a pool. I just found it, Mariana. Like five
Thank
bedrooms
you.
with a pool typically do well for Airbnb. Like, have you considered that option? Like, I just looked at the numbers around what this would probably
Yeah.
pull, and it
So
would do over 100 grand a year in top line revenue.
that the city district actually doesn't allow Airbnb. I called and we
Ah.
considered that at the beginning. Yeah, they don't allow it. They don't want to deal with it. And it's actually a really nice area. So it's prohibited. And we looked into potentially, because it's actually it would have been potentially good for a burr if to do a refi. But the thing now is because the market has adjusted, our fear is it's not going to appraise for what we would have needed it to appraise, which was the original list price of $1 million. In order for us to be able to actually make that happen, and we personally can't afford a mortgage that expensive if it's not a burr deal
Got
where
it.
we can refi out.
Is
because
it because it's north of Seagate? Because you have a bunch of Airbnbs right by you, but they're just one block south.
Yeah. So we happen to
Okay.
be in the Neptune Beach city
Right.
district, and it's
Okay.
like this
Yeah.
little small, good community, and they completely are no
Okay.
Airbnbs allowed. Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Anyways, I just thought I'd
unfortunately-
jump in to try to find
Thank you.
another.
No,
No,
yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
no, and this is a good question because you guys, we got to go through those motions. Do you keep, do you not? When rates shot up, I had to sell some houses and they just mathematically, they would not work as a keep. And I had to get this off my plate and reload in and get new inventory going. And so,
But James, to be honest with you, more on like a mental, emotional kind of situation. It's one of those things where moving forward into another project, it just seems like impossible to me now because like all of our money's in this house. So after we sell, and obviously closing this and getting this thing sold and off of our plate is going to be a huge like just relief, right? But it's like, how do I even start again? Because it's like we have no money. And not only that, I'm even worse than when I started, because when I started, I had no money, but at least I didn't owe anyone. Now I'm starting with no money and I'm gonna owe $80,000 to, you know what I mean? Like it just seems like do I flip? Do I start wholesaling now? Like to try to make the money back? Like at this point, I'm trying to think of what can I start doing now, because I know the bill's coming. I know I'm gonna owe these people. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
well, that was going to be my second thing I was to say was wholesaling, because right now you have deal flow, you have networks of people that you're meeting with. You can definitely turn on that revenue channel, right? Like as far as start meeting with investors. What are they looking for and helping them source those deals out? Because you've been now plugged in that network for 1 to 2 years there. And start meeting with the wholesalers, with different investors going, hey, this is what I'm looking for. If you have any deals, get them to me and I'm ready to go. So let's start that conversations now, because that's income you can be doing as you're waiting throughout this process.
Right.
Second thing is it's always doable. And so because you have the skill set, you have the construction, you know how to look at a deal. The money right now is actually the easiest thing to get. The operational is way harder for people. And so it's not, you have the skill set. So now we got to package it. So things that I do want you to do, how do we get that done, is I want you to run a resume of all the deals that you had done, right? Including the bad one in there. And then we're going to build that resume, because it can't always be sunshine and bunnies.
Right.
And so, let's start building that out, because we're going to have to start raising some capital in order to pay off these other investors too. But it's definitely doable. It's about how we set up and structure that deal. The other thing that you can start doing with like cash is there's a lot of newer flippers in Florida. I know that would love to partner with an investor that knows how to run a job site.
Okay.
And start connecting with some of them of going, hey, look, what we could partner on the job. We'll run the construction. If you cut me in with this equity, you put up the funds, I'll do the deal. We're going to partner on this 50-50 split, or maybe it's a 75-25, and you can actually run that project with no cash out.
Okay.
And so there's definitely ways that we can do that because you have the skill set and the work drive. And this won't be the last time you lose money in real estate, because you guys, it will happen to everybody on this call. I think I'm fairly good at this job and I lose money sometimes. And so but then it's how do we move forward and don't hang on to it. What you're doing the right things with selling it, you're aggressively marketing it, you want it off your plate. And then we have to go, okay, what is your skill set? Skill set is you're a hard worker, you know how to look at a deal, you can run a job site, you're diligent. So there's people that need that. We're going to pair up with them. The investors that need deals with wholesaling, we can start looking at that too. Who's looking for a deal? What are they looking for? Pounding on the wholesalers. What do you got? Staying in front of them. So you're the first person they bring that to. You can help transition that out. Then it's going to be also about buying your own deal and setting up the debt structure that way. Because you don't have the cash to do it, that's fine, but we're going to have to structure the deal and find the right one for that. But it's definitely there's a lot of people on this call that don't have any money in their deals and they're running them, but they have the skill set to run them.
Okay.
And so, you know, 80K, any amount of money sucks to lose, especially when you're going to pay it back. But I can tell you, it is achievable. You just got to get this stress off your plate right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so selling it
definitely.
is the priority, and you're doing the right thing that way, because the longer it goes, the more it gets eat up. So, but I can promise you there's a way to keep going on it. And then so, you know, as soon as we go pending, then we're going to start looking for a deal and how are we packaging that and how are we going to offer that out?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but I can promise you gets better.
You good?
So, because the good thing is you can't buy another, not the right deal, you know?
No, the lessons from this house are, let me tell you, extensive. It's just that, you know, I know we gotta lose money sometimes and losses need to come, but I mean this was a hell of a way to learn a lesson. So
Yeah. What you see online from all these people that they're killing it all the time, they're full of shit. Because I know a lot of these people. And so never feel like we're all in the same bucket, right? Like we run a lot of different businesses. I can tell you we have 8 businesses. There's 2 that just are sucking right now. And it's just the prime of the market. It's not that we don't know how to operate. It's just not the right time. We bought the wrong thing. We developed the wrong plan. The thing took too long and they don't go well. That's why I'm big on multiple income streams. Like, hey, sometimes these aren't going to work over here. And we have 20 years of experience, and yet sometimes we buy the wrong deal and we operate it the wrong way, and there's repercussions from that. And so, but we also have all these other good things going on. And so you will get out of the hole because you have the drive to do so. So right now we just got to get that thing pending, but do it in a logical way. And then in the meantime, how do we generate income? Well, I want you to build out your resume first, all your projects, what you bought it for, what the rehab were, document the scope of work that was completed, the timelines, and then and attach a pro forma to that. Let's get that resume built out, because you can start going out and meeting with investors today about just partnering with them and running their sites for them.
okay. So at that point, would I be looking, just networking, Facebook groups, people that I already know?
Right now, let's build the resume first.
Okay.
And let's knock that out. And then it's going to be about going to the meetup groups, introducing, you know, also talking to other brokers, working with investors. Like, hey, because for me as a broker too, like if I don't have the background I got an investor client, they have lots of money, they just don't know how to operate it. If I have an operator I can pair them with, that all of a sudden I get a transaction done. So you know, it won't be all the Facebook groups and all that. That'll be some of it, but it'll be about the business professionals that need to fill that gap. And we can talk about how to target those people.
Okay. One day at a time.
One day at a time, we'll get it sold. I promise you that.
Okay.
Like you did the right thing. You got rid of the broker. You're pricing where you should be now. And then now we just got to look at how long should it take. So.
Will do. Thank you.
Yep. Everything we will grind through it. So. David. Hey, David, you there?
He's here. He just doesn't know how to operate a phone. Give me
Hey.
a second. Here we go. Hi guys.
What's going on, bud?
How you doing?
Good, man. You got some cool
Good.
shades on.
Oh, bro, this is I have. I can't. The sunlight cripples me. I'm a vampire.
You're a Hollywood guy, man. You can't.
Yeah, is that what it is? Yeah, it must be that. It's the sunglasses at night vibe. Hey, Mariana, can I offer something to you?
Please do. Absolutely. All ears.
If I may, I once lost an obscene amount of money that I thought was going to cripple me. I'm talking like almost $1 million. True story. And it was a crazy, I thought this was a shoe-in. I committed myself to it. I sold a house that I had a ton of equity in to raise the capital. And it was a massive piece of my net worth. And I lost every. It crushed me. And then there was a lawsuit on the back of that, which was another 150 grand right there, and 2 years of fighting and stress and an enormous amount of upset. My personal life was affected. I'd never been through something like that. I was just a kid. I thought I was making big moves, and I did it with the wrong people. And fundamentally, I mean, look, I would have done that deal different, but it was also fraud. They stole, right? Mm-hmm. There are some things you just can't underwrite, you know? And when you're in the middle of a financial loss, all you see is the problems and the stress and the fear, and you go, how am I going to get out of this? And what I can tell you from my personal experience is that since that time, I have rebuilt most of that nut in a completely different fashion, which was real estate and flipping and a couple other things, but mostly that. You will get clarity on this. You will get removed from it and you will get clarity, and that clarity will drive you. And whether that's, flipping 10 houses and you peel off 10 grand a piece until you make it up to your investors plus a little premium, whatever you're going to do, like, you will start to be able to breathe again, and you will see a way out of this, and you will be okay. Right? In the scope of the money you're going to make in your lifetime, one day you will laugh at the 80 grand that kept you up at night. Okay?
Amen.
Just give yourself a little time on it. All right? And don't quit. Just get better.
Okay.
That would be my advice, if I may.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm all ears. Thank you. Thank you. Mentally, that helps. Thanks.
Yeah. Listen, everybody loses. It's, you got to come back. That's the discipline.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. Look your investors in the face. Tell them what's what. Get them out. They'll still appreciate you. You know what I mean? They'll get it. Even if it's a hard combo, you're going to be okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you, David. I appreciate
totally welcome. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Yes, it is. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Now I'm in a disaster. No, I'm kidding. Kind of, sort of. God, it is getting a little dark, isn't it? All right. So, my friend, I have kind of a 10,000 foot strategy question for you.
Okay.
And I think you're the man. You're definitely the man to ask. So, I have been flipping C-class. First off, my life has changed a lot recently, and I'm bouncing from different places. I'm in LA. I'm here. I'm there. I'm doing this. And so my typical focus and stability in terms of, my timelines have gotten a little disjointed. And also, like, at one point, I did like 12, 13 C-class properties in like 1 year, right?
Yep.
And I'm a one-man show, so I'm handling everything. I kind of got my nephew on; he's helped me out a little bit, but I basically run the ship. And that was worth it for a while, but recently, I've got those two houses in Columbus. I still haven't sold them. I had to refinance both of them, so I had to bring 50 grand to the table to get them both refinanced because of the LTVs.
These are the two right next to each other, right?
They're right next. Yeah, yep. That's right. They're right next to each other. One of them I got rented out at like an absolute premium of $2,200 a month for 18 months. So like maybe that'll work for an investor's portfolio. The other one I don't have rented, and I will be finishing that refi tomorrow, at which point I'm going to turn around and just go right back to sell that thing and just try and get it on the market, get my cash back. Okay, so that's great. And my deals I got another one here listed in Utah that we've been having price corrections on. I think we started at 560 and now I'd have to double check. We're at 549, I think. So right about at that median home price. We've been out here for about 30 some days. We've been getting about 2 showings a week. People like it. I mean, I think we did a good job on it. We keep getting really positive feedback. Or we'll hear we're too high priced, or we don't like that we're next to a freeway. I think the freeway is probably the bigger thing. Anyway, my margins are getting thinner on that all the time. I think I'm going to come in closer to 20 to 25% ROI on it, which is not horrendous, but not exactly what I want to do. So anyway, I was talking to some other flipper friends of mine, and I guess my strategy question is, part of me feels like perhaps a better way to go about this is, rather than focusing on 10 to 12 properties a year and just like blitzing them out, is instead focusing on like 2 to 3 more upper end properties, or properties, higher down payments, not even necessarily luxury, just different markets perhaps that can sort of accommodate that, where I can make the same kind of returns that I was making a couple of years ago, in the last couple of years when I was doing a lot of volume, but I can be more focused on the product, more focused on delivering quality, and it takes a little bit less of my time to generate the same amount of money. I don't know if that's wishful thinking, but it just feels like I have the capital to probably go after bigger stuff, and perhaps there's some value in that strategically. You know what I mean? Versus like spreading myself thin on a bunch of $180,000 to $250,000 properties in the Midwest.
I don't. The one thing like I would say, guys, that we want to be really careful with, because I'm kind of hearing this 2 in a row, right? The stuff you guys, things with negative impacts right now when you're on the upper echelon, we want to be careful about buying those things. Freeways, schools, like we just want to make sure that we're cutting the price, because before the pandemic, it was an automatic. You were 5 to 10% worth less than something with a none, and then the pandemic kind of evaporated that because of lack of inventory, where people would just buy stuff to buy it. Didn't matter what it was next to. And so you guys, everyone should cross that off your buy list, unless it's like, if I'm at 35% return, I can make 50% return. I might look at that. But it's got to be a lot healthier. Because it slows your deal down, right? People they're pickier. You got to find the right buyer at it. Working smart on fewer projects over numerous, there's pros and cons to that. The one thing about having where you're doing it is it's more of an affordable price point, to where typically there's going to be a little bit more velocity in those price points. And the one thing is, if you're putting more money in 1 to 2 deals, that one deal is really important, whereas you can kind of spread out your risk on different markets and different houses. And so that's why I do like the low price point spread model. You're more diversified. There's, if one little market has a blip and this one's fine, you're leveled out. But whereas when you're in just 1 or 2 expensive houses and something bad goes, it's not great. But timing wise, how you maximize your time is do bigger projects and not get spread out. You will typically be able to get more profit out of those deals. What I have found, those your cash on cash return is higher on the smaller deals than it is the bigger one.
That's what I'm finding too. That's why I've stayed mostly out of Utah, because on Utah, I've had a hard time with thinner margins. And, you know, I'm paying more capital to get into the deal, but I'm making less. Now, the benefit is I can monitor it firsthand, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah. So it's in theory less risky because you're there.
in theory, right? So I'm
Yeah.
here, I could check up on everything. But I was doing deals in Columbus for a while and Cleveland where I was making 2x, and really crushing and on relatively good timelines. And then I had like a contractor issue, and then I had the system kind of fell apart for a little bit. And now these properties that I have now, I've slowed down my buying. And the properties that I have now, I'm just trying to make sure I get all that off, recoup all my capital, and then I start plotting for what the next, where I'm going next.
And so I would say for that, like, I mean, the good thing about you is you are very capable of setting up in a market and getting ripping. Because you've been in Florida, you've been in Ohio, you're in Utah. And so what I wouldn't focus on whether it's a bigger project or not, I would focus on what's the healthiest market to be in.
Yeah.
And then see what opportunities are there. Like, for us in Seattle's a very competitive market. The reason I play in the price points I do, where I'm buying for like 900 to $1 million and selling for 1.6, is because that's where I find the best deals.
Right.
I would much rather buy a $350,000 house, put in 50, sell it for 500.
Totally.
But those margins get shrunk, and the margin I want, I got to go to that range. And so I wouldn't say, right, I would scrap the price point and go, okay, what markets do I like best? And who am I, which ones are the best flipping markets right now? Like, honestly, Seattle, in my opinion, is doing really well compared to where. But we
I
also
thought about coming to Seattle.
We got our teeth kicked in when the rates shot up, right? So they all have these different little cycles. And so, and now other parts of the country are slowing down. That when I was sitting on my stuff and they were selling all their stuff out, it's kind of switched, and that happened. And so I would focus on, okay, where's the core markets that I like, that had the least amount of inventory, that are selling the most. I think actually there's a podcast that we just did on the market, and I know Dave Myers did this too, where he goes over all the data of like, here's the velocity going on here. I would look for the lowest inventory, highest absorption rates, and focus on those markets rather than the more expensive ones.
That makes sense.
And then, but if you are going to shift into the more expensive, that's okay. But you want to find the high absorptions. Like I was saying in Newport Beach, what I've been seeing, I actually really wouldn't want to be selling in that. It's like the 5 to 8 range in certain pockets is slow.
Yep.
But 10 to 12 is moving. And then if you're 5 and below, it's gone. And so it just tells me out of no man's land to stay in.
That's interesting. And that's part of the reason. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy.
No, you're totally good.
I was just going to say, part of the thing too is that I'm thinking about moving back to Los Angeles full time, and so that would shift my strategy a lot. Because there is obviously higher priced homes there, and I've got a lot of neighborhoods at my disposal between, the OC, to your point, Newport. A little bit further north in the valley and so on, and so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could do 2 or 3 houses here in this market and be local and, be more hands-on. Of course, you got to find the deals and you got to, the whole thing. But anyway, that's where my head is kind of starting to shift to, is like, rather than doing so much remotely.
I like the back, and I think honestly, California, especially if you're there, has some good opportunity. I mean, Drew, we hop in on a question soon. He seems to be finding great deals out there.
Right.
And so like there's, I like being in the backyard and like being able to look at it, do those things. But if the margin's not there, I'll go somewhere else.
Right.
And so there's a sweet spot to every spot. And I do think like areas like California, it's like, the wealth gap's getting gapped out so much. So the fixers, there's less demand for them. So you can get a better buy. And then when it's done, it sells. Because people don't want to do a thing. And, but I don't think it'd be price point. I would look at more like health and market and risk and like your teams in the sport you have around you. Because
Yeah.
some of the deals, from what I've understand in the past, is also it was just like the wrong people, like the wrong wholesaler looking at the deal, the wrong contractor, which is
Yep.
really not there, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, being there, you guys will always reduce your risk.
Yeah, I agree. And you can really monitor what's happening on the site, and the areas a little bit better. I mean, when I started in Columbus, it was cold. I knew nothing. And I was just looking at what could I buy into, where was the value, where could I exit? And that was just it. And for a while, that was working really, really well. Florida, the same thing. Florida, I got a really nice deal there, but then inventory popped up and our prices pulled back a lot. So that was
Yeah.
no.
And you guys, this is happening in some of these razor hot markets, right? Like Columbus, it actually still has, it's like forecasted for high growth. So I think you're looking good there.
Yeah.
Especially keeping them as rentals might not have been a bad call at all because they should still be going up in value.
Yeah.
Now, areas where I am seeing though, like Austin got beat up, Florida is starting to get beat up because of all the insurance costs. Also, the migration has slowed down since the pandemic. Arizona, I'm seeing lots of inventory in the high end. And I'm seeing lots of price cuts, 500 grand at a time going on. And so there's always going to be these pullbacks. And I think, some of these markets like Florida, Arizona, these more seasonal zones, they're going to pull back a little bit and level out. And so, I think it's a good time to kind of avoid those. But there's still, like in Arizona, that's worrying me. But then there's this sweet spot where I'm like, oh, this neighborhood, if you're below $1 million, it's gone. It's like, and so I just have to go find the sweet spot in that area. But
Yeah, totally.
There's definitely been pullback, and you guys, when it's expensive markets and they come down 10%, it's a big number.
For sure. That's why I've stayed away from luxury stuff always.
Yeah.
To your point, I've always been close to the median home price for that area.
Yeah, I'd be really nervous about doing this Newport Beach flip that I'm buying too. And I'm still, it's a big number, biggest number I've done, but I know the market and the street and I just know it so well. It helps me get past that hump.
Yeah.
And so, and maybe I'm making the wrong call, but we'll see. It's,
you got to go for it, dude.
Was it non-refundable money's on it now. So it's, it'll be closing. But you have to feel comfortable in it. And you guys, the high end's not to play around with unless you really know it. Like, I'm a firm believer of that. So.
Okay. So.
Lots of stuff in SoCal, like you get down in LA and you're selling below 9, you're stepping up a little bit. That's just gone.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, if I could call it 150 grand to 200 grand to a deal, but I can walk with 150 grand, 125, maybe 200, and I do that a few times a year, right? Like that would be an acceptable, but but it's just that you need a market that can accommodate that.
Yeah. And that's where you're going to find that usually. And Drew, I guess, can talk about the returns that you've seen up in those price points. The cash on cash, not that high on the Newport flip. I know that. Because it's a bigger project. But you can hit those 50% margins on that stuff. And that is where you're working smart. You're on one deal. It's right there. And honestly, the buyer pool is probably a little healthier at $1 million in that zone than it is 500 in Ohio, right? Like it's you want to look at those absorption. You guys, it's all about absorption rates. Like what is selling, what's active, what's moving. That's what I'm chasing.
When you ask an agent about that, do you literally say like, hey, can you give me a concept on the absorption rates? What's it looking like right now? And they know there's like data that they can pull, or do I have to like sort of?
No, they'll be able to pull it and they should be able to interpret it for you. And if they don't, hire a different broker. So it's, it's really just how many pendings are in the area, how many actives. And so if I have, 10 total properties and 5 are pending, then I have a 50% absorption rate.
Yeah.
And I like the ones that are like 60-70% in certain price points because they'll be there for sure.
Right.
And so, and that's kind of where I shift over. Like in my neighborhood in Arcadia right now, I saw like 10 houses get listed for over $10 million. Not one has sold, right? That's a terrible absorption rate.
Sure.
But then if you're 3 to 4 million in our neighborhood, it's like a 70% absorption rate. And so
Interesting.
that reduces risk because there's the most amount of buyers there.
That's fascinating. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I think that's basically my question. I'm just kind of like evaluating what the next way to attack is once I clear these off and I've got capital restacked and ready to roll.
Yeah, and then dude, talk to Drew when you get in town too, because he's right in LA doing deals. I mean, he's got all sorts of price points going on, like $600,000 dispos to $1 million and change. And so, yeah, those are great ranges to plan. Like I like that for SoCal. I like it for Austin. I like it for Seattle. I like it for any metro. If you're $1 million, $1.5 million, it's a good place to be in.
Cool. Cool, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, well, if you move there, you can come roll down and check out Newport at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. For sure. I'd love that.
Yeah. I'll let people know once we start ripping into the thing. And anybody in SoCal can come do a walk.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
All right, we got Joel, Drew, and then we got lots of questions. Hey, we'll keep going. Joel.
Hey, James.
What's up, buddy? How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around a pool. So I've got an opportunity in front of me in Lake Forest Park. I'm working directly with the seller. I'm pretty dialed into my underwriting for the house and market pricing for the house, everything besides the pool. So I guess
the pool is a wild card in Washington, dude.
Yeah, it is. And it's like a rambler, and the backyard is like, you could just tell it was like a custom yard and house for like a pool house. So, I mean, if I could make this happen, I think it'd be something pretty sweet. If you take a look at the chat, I actually took a picture of the pool and I put it in there.
Let's see it in the chat.
Yeah, let me.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, it's buried in there. All right, you guys. And I see some other questions in the box too, so I will hammer on those too. Okay, here we go.
So I guess my first question about the pool is, like, I know it's just kind of a guess, but I mean, what's like a realistic or a range of price that I could expect to bring the pool back to life?
$100,000.
$100,000.
Yep. The only reason I can tell you this, dude, is I bid pools out. I got 12 different pool bids on a pool because I couldn't believe the pricing. And I will say, so this thing looks pretty toast. I don't know anything about the guts and I don't know anything about that, but I can tell you the wear and tear, it's going to be probably $100,000 on this pool.
Okay. And is that $100,000 like worst case scenario, or is that like average? Or
I would say that's going to be on the lower end of the quotes I got.
Oof.
Okay. Call Ken's Pools.
Ken's Pools.
Yeah, that's the guy to call.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not cheap, but he's cheaper than some of the other quotes I got for sure.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing you don't want to forget about too, to optimize this price, is you got a lot of hardscapes around this pool, the concrete. Is there like a concrete patio running up to it?
There is. So like the whole, if you
Hey, Joe, I lost you.
He muted himself.
Oh, you muted yourself, Joel.
Oh, hello. All right. Yeah. So the backyard it's probably like 80% concrete. So they've pretty much just catered the whole backyard into just kind of like a pool, for the pool space.
Yeah, and I look at the comps because a lot of times the ones with pools and some grass is so like we had a pool house recently, we cut out half the concrete just to install grass too. Just don't underestimate the concrete work too, because you can redo this pool, spend $100,000 on it, but then you got this busted old concrete around it, or even weathered, and it just takes away from the complete vibe.
Yeah, I
And
gotcha.
so, I would factor like another 20, 25, probably another 20 grand around it too, because they forget about the tinsel that needs to, because you want that staycation art where people are like,
Yeah.
I want this, but you
Yep.
lose that when it's not. You got to take it all the way through the finish line, is what I've seen on these comps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those are things that have definitely been budget buster, hidden things where I'm like, shit, I didn't think about the pool's one thing, but then you have everything around it to tie it together.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so with that concrete that you're telling me about, like cutting in, I'm looking at some of these pictures, like cleaning up all the bushes around it, maybe adding like a little fire pit, some grass. It's probably going to be another, 10, 20 grand around the pool too.
Okay. So another question, have you ever decommissioned the pool, like filled it and turned
Yep.
it, like converted the backyard into just a normal backyard?
Yeah, that typically will cost about 20 grand.
20 grand. Okay.
Roughly, I'd say anywhere between 15 and 25 grand. And what we have the guys do is they go punch holes in the bottom. They fill it with drain rock. And then they add soil on, and then they actually break up the pool and just kind of push it in.
Okay.
And then they fill it with, they do that first, then they fill it with drain rock, they put dirt in, and then we saw it over the whole thing. And that's usually about 20 grand. That's what actually, it costed me 20 grand in bridal trails, and I had quotes at 130 on my pools.
Oh, wow. Okay. And is that typically like a permitted, scope of work, or?
Depends on the city. Randomly in Bellevue, they didn't tell me I needed to do it.
Okay.
But then we did some other things, and then they said we needed a pool permit. It was the weirdest thing ever. So typically they're supposed to look at it because they want to make sure it drains right.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
You don't want a bunch of pooling water going in there.
Understood. Okay. So if I would go ahead and just fix the pool, is market timing? I could imagine market timing, especially here in Seattle, being very important with selling a pool. So like if
huge premium, yes, I think so.
Okay. So if I did move forward with it, being able to maybe hit the end of summer would be a goal. I don't know if that's realistic, but if that doesn't look promising, then I could probably just slow play the construction a little more to just tee it up for like a spring or early summer next year.
Yeah, and it's not that they won't sell with no pool either, though. It's just you might not get this crazy premium because someone's like walks out and they're like, I want to go swimming in this right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to bring your value down. It just might prevent the buyer that has to have that pool.
Gotcha. Okay. And then my last question. So ARV without a pool in the neighborhood is about 1.2 and a half.
Yeah.
What do you think that pool would, how would that affect an ARV in like summertime?
That's a hard thing to put on because I comp pools quite a bit. So like what I like to do and what I've seen is it typically has gotten anywhere between 5 and 10% above, typically around that 5 to 7%.
Okay.
Because we did list a house with a pool not that long in December actually. And that there was no pool comps it was in Edmonds, not one.
Okay.
And so what I did is I went into Lake Forest Park, I went into just surrounding neighborhoods, Bothell, and then I was looking at, okay, what houses with pools sold, and then I looked at the delta and the premium people were willing to pay, and I averaged it out. And so, but typically what I've seen is it's been about a 5%, but it's always a hard story to tell because sometimes it's like the house with the pool that the pool is really nice, but then it was dated on the inside.
Yeah.
And to have that full cohesive renovation, but I would factor small and the upside could be big, right?
Gotcha.
And so I would say the hard part about a pool is the cost to fix it all typically is going to be the premium you're going to get. So it's more just getting the house gone sometimes too.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of sounds like it probably wouldn't be worth it to run to fix the pool if it's costing 100K, and then I mean I'll only net maybe 5 to 10% more.
What's the square footage on the house?
So it's about it's a little over 2,000 square feet.
I could see you hitting like some of those houses in that Lake Forest Park zone with really premium yards. And that's the other thing I'll look at. It's like other types of novelty that people have in yards. Like what are people vacation vibes, whether it's a sport court or whatever it is. Typically I could see you getting above 1.3 for that house with a pool.
With a pool. Okay. Gotcha.
Granted, I haven't seen the address or anything like that, but I would think that 1.2 to 1.3 is a pretty sweet spot, and typically that's kind of what I saw in that range was like, you know, homes with no pools are selling like 1.2, maybe 1.25, and then they go 1.35 to 1.4 with the pool.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting. I mean, I think I've kind of got a plan where I'm going to have a couple people look at the pool and try to get a general idea and figure out scope of work and if it's something I want to do. But if it's not, then I think I would convert it and then put like maybe a little sports court with like a little pickleball court, and I don't know, try to make it, I don't know, give it a little bit of a vibe back there.
Yeah, I still think you're gonna spend a bunch of money on that to do yes, I think you can cut out some that fill that with grass. Putting in a sports court's expensive, I can tell you that much, to do it right.
Okay.
And so, but ripping out concrete's also expensive. And so, you know, what I would do with this pool situation if I was buying this house is I would start the renovation, get quotes to demo it, get quotes to fix it, and then I hang on to it because the demo is going to take them 4 days to do it.
Oh, wow.
4 or 5
Okay.
days. Put in a pool is going to take them to fix it all is going to be like 2 to 3 weeks. And so I'll keep hanging on to those 2 quotes and then waiting for the data to tell me one way or the other.
I see.
So like, don't
Okay.
make a decision, just get the quotes. So I would run your numbers with no pool in the demo, buy that way, right? So 25 grand to demo the pool, get the yard looking right, run the numbers that way, buy on that, and then switch the pool if the data pops.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because then you're reducing your risk by just going with the plan that you know works.
That makes sense. And I'm not wasting time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then one other question. So the county records show that there's a pool on the property. So if I were to demo the pool and just get rid of it, would that have any kind of impact, any future impact on anything?
Wait, say that one more time.
So if you pull up the real list or the King County records, it indicates that there is a pool on the property.
Okay.
So removing the pool and not, I guess,
permitting
it and recording it, am I going to run into any issues or problems with that?
I don't think you're going to run any issues. The buyers might be concerned. And so I would document it really well on what you're doing.
Okay.
Saying, hey, look, here's what we did. We demoed it. There's a picture. Here's the drain rock. Here's this. And then, you know, because that's typically what I've done on stuff like that, where I'm like, hey, no, this is what we did to resolve it.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. No, that was helpful.
Cool. No, hey, look, but pools are cool.
They are. No, I hope I could make it happen. It would be a pretty sick backyard.
Yeah.
So.
No, they do sell well, especially if you hit it right.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Thanks, James.
You're welcome. All right, we got Purdy, then Sergey, Byron, Nicole. We're gonna keep going. So it was funny. Some coach was telling me the other day. He's like, "Well, why are your calls so long?" I'm like, "Well, because they have questions." He's like, "Oh, well, they gotta wait till next week." I was like, "No, they don't." So just you guys know, I'm getting lectured by people. Purdy.
Hey James, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I have 2 questions. I was underwriting some deals, and I was just wondering, like, is the recent comps have of everything has been uh going down from last year? So there are some properties which sold in like August or September last year, like within that 6 months mark, but like right at the edge of it. So I was wondering if I need to like reduce, uh, like put it at like if it sold for 650, should I be putting it at 640, things like that in my underwriting. But I was wondering, how do I determine like that percentage of how much should I reduce it? Because I know things have been going down here in Denver, especially with the inventory rising. I think it's like 7% above pre-pandemic levels now. So everywhere it's like reducing, but I'm not sure how do I figure out that percentage.
Okay, so what I would do is so anybody, you guys, if your market's declining, which happens, right? They fluctuate there and back. The first thing we want to do is, if you can, if I start to see if I think it could be going backwards a little bit, I want to stay on the tightest possible comp. So try to use comps within the last 90 days or pendings. Try if you can't, but there's a lack of inventory. Well, I mean, I guess there's a lot more inventory in Denver. There's less pendings. But try to stick with those 90-day if you can.
Okay.
The more volatile the market, whether it's going up or down, try to shrink your time frames. The more flat it is, you can go back in time more. For things that you want to look at for factoring in is look at percentage of list price, the sale to list price ratio.
Okay.
Because that will tell you what their listed price were and what they closed for. And then that gives you the first indication of what you should be knocking it down by a little bit, because typically when buyers start to see a trend, they start going for that same trend. And now what I'm seeing is sellers are pricing high, expecting it. And so it's this, but that's why there's more inventory right now too. Like home prices is a little higher than what they were. The sales are lower, but the actual list prices are higher. So look at the sale to price ratio. How much of a percentage is it coming off? If it's 5%, then you want to kind of build that into the metrics a little bit. If it's a steady trend. What you want to look at too is in the zip codes that you're in. And actually a great tool for this, you guys, I'm going to pull this up right now, actually. Redfin, you guys, has great information for this. Let me pull up. Let's walk you through this right now so everybody can do that. Gosh, now I'm trying to get my screen back. Exit full screen. There we go. All right. Purdy, what city are you flipping in?
I was looking at something in Lakewood.
Okay. Here we go, guys. I'm going to show you what I do here. Now, it's funny because the chart I'm looking at says the opposite of what we're seeing. So, and those are things that we want to look at too. Like, I want to break this down for everybody. All right. So, you guys, the best thing you can do, like for this, I love this snapshot data. I can go Redfin, Lakewood, Colorado, median home price. And this is going to break me down the year-over-year median home price. So this tells me median sale price in Lakewood's $560,000. So that's the average price point. So if I'm looking for flips, I'm going, okay, I kind of like this 450 to 600 range because this is the median price. That's where the most are selling. It is up technically 2.6% year over year. So year over year, it has not gone down. It's actually gone up on pricing. But what we're seeing right now is you see a lot more dips and valleys going on.
Yep.
And so I want to break this down a little bit more. The also number of sold homes in the last year is up 21%. So there was more 20% more sales this year than last year, year over year. And then median days on market is at 31. And so that's up 13 days. So that tells me, okay, it's going to take me longer to sell these properties, but the market's actually not declining.
Okay.
And so, let's do this real quick. So we can see the median home price is kind of fluctuating because of low inventory. So it goes up and down, up and down. So, okay, year over year was up 2.6% this month, but then last month it was down 9.15%. Then it goes up 1%, up 12%, up 8%, down 6%. And so you guys, the reason we see these fluctuations so much is because of lack of sales. But let's look at this. 129 homes sold in February this year, up 106 from last year. So there was up from 106. So they sold 23 more homes this year in February. And so, you know, things I would look at, and this is what you can do to kind of, there we go, sale to list ratio. 99.2%. So that means that they come off about 1% off list on most average listings. So you can kind of build that in as a closing cost. And then homes sold above list, 28%, that's down 1.5 points. So that means less offers are going out, less competitive. And then homes with price drops are at 37%. And so what that tells me when I see a market with 37% of homes are getting price drops, I need to go look at what is their original list prices in the area though too. Like if I'm looking at the data and it says the average is 550 to 560 is median home price, but then a lot of listings are in the 600s and they're cutting, it's because they're outside the averages. And so then I want to kind of focus on that median area of going, okay, well, how is this working? How's it how's it transacting? So people are moving. Hey, LA, a lot of California people still moving that way. And so I would say right now, it's not showing that the trends are too bad. Now, it is from 2022, the median home price, this is before rates shot, it did come down quite a bit. Or let's do single family too. So single family. Okay, so median home price. So now that we got it down to just single family, it is down 1.2% year over year. And then home sold was up 20%. Median days on market actually went to 15. So it's not 30. That was factoring everything in. And so like if you do see a little bit of a decline, like 1%, that's where you could factor in like a safe thing to do in a deal would be to look at like, okay, I'm going to give up 2% in closing costs to a seller because they'll help you absorb it. Or you can take off, you know, if it's averaging a 1% decline, then you can go, hey, I'm going to take 2% of list price off in my performa. But try to use this median home price in this median trend. This kind of tells you the trends of that market.
Okay. Can we get like the seasonal trends also from here? Because like right now it's spring market, which obviously goes up a little bit, but
Well, the thing is, this shows you the year over year, so it compares the hot month with the hot month and the cold month with, and that's going to keep consistent. That's why you want to use year over year, not month to month.
Okay.
And so, like, if we look at here, June 2024, this will kind of tell you what it is. But it's like in June 2024, the median home price was 700, and that was up 4.5% year over year. In July, it was up 1.9%. It's at 4.5% in August, it was up. And so, and then it dropped to 9% down in September. And so it just shows you that consistent, and that's why we like to use year over year, because it's similar conditions, similar market timings. You know, rates are about the same as where they were. Migration will be about the same during that time. And it's just should give you that kind of trend of what's going on in that neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, this is actually really great information.
Yeah, you guys, Redfin has great free information, especially for like high level snapshots like this.
Yeah, I have one more question. So the lenders that I talked to, they all lend at like 75% loan to value at the max. Like, would you only look at deals that like basically the numbers work at like 75% or anything more than that? Is like this market is weird. It's obviously like a little bit high price market, so that 70% rule obviously doesn't work here. So like, do I go to like the 75% loan to value with all my costs and just stick to that, or like can I go higher than that even though the lenders only lend until that?
Are you talking about as far as keeping it as a rental?
No, like even for flips, like
Oh, for
mostly,
flips.
yeah,
Okay,
for
the
the
70% rule just as a like a surface underwriting, basically.
yeah, I mean the lenders also lend like at max at 75% loan to value. So
Yeah, and so yeah, the 70% rule is kind of like it's like a spot checking to going, okay, if I'm buying this property and I'm all in at 70%, it's really safe. Is kind of it's a good way to spot check something. But yes, what I would do if I was looking at is I would take it up to the 75%, because the more leverage they give you, the higher your return is going to be with cash on cash. And so I'd run the best leverage scenario to go, okay, is it worth the risk or not if I can make this 30% return or 50% return? The 70% rule is more of like a checking thing, that it's a good buy rather than what you can get leverage for. And honestly, it's kind of a dated rule anyways nowadays. Just because I've never really believed in it, because it depends on your price point you're in. If you're in a very affordable market, it can be hard to make any money at the 70% just because they're lower price points. Or sometimes the 70% rule on a very expensive market, there's no way you're going to get that deal. And so it's a good way to spot check, to go, okay, I need to dig in more, and then use the pro forma from there to really guide the offer.
okay, but like if I want to, I guess I'm not able to frame the question correctly, but like the lender said like they will lend up to 90% of the purchase price or 85% of the purchase price, and like 90% of the rehab cost, up to 75% of loan to value. So if I am only consider like the amount of money that I have to put in this deal, if I go over that cost with the 75% loan to value, and I don't have that money to put in the deal, then I can't do that deal anymore.
Yes, because they're capping you at a max loan to value, because they have to do that for risk. Now, so what the thing I'd want to ask that lender is, how do they come up with that loan to value? Do they
Okay.
use an appraisal? Do they use your comps based on that? Because that's usually going to be the difference, is if their opinion's different than yours. And that does happen. I mean, I was telling someone the other day, I was like, yeah, I appraised my Newport Beach house that I sold for 8.5 million, and the lender appraised that 7 when they did my hard money loan. That's how far off they were, because they didn't understand the streets and the views and the impact of it. And so it doesn't mean that they're right. It just, I like to know where they're coming up with that value. But yes, if the loan balance cannot, they have their down payment requirements, which is they want 15% down, and they'll do 90% of your rehab, but then it has to be below that 75% loan to value. And that's based on their value. And so I would run your numbers that way. The max loan amount you can get is 75% of your new appraised value.
Okay.
And then from there, find out where they're getting their values from too.
Okay.
But yes, you would have to come up with the difference if it's not below that 75%.
Well, like, is it advisable to even do that deal in that case? Like, if I think the numbers work, but they are off on that price.
I would say I don't think the lenders, a lot of these guys don't know much about values. They're just going off some appraiser that doesn't even understand the value add component half the time. I would say what I would want to look at, let's say I think this is a great deal, like my Newport Beach one. I'm like, all right, I can get this leverage. I'm fine with it. The question is, and this is why I always want your buy box to be like, hey, there's a minimum cash on cash return that you're going to make if you do a flip, and set that amount. Like, I need to make this amount of return on this money I'm investing to take on this risk. When they won't lend you more, you have to bring more cash in, and that will typically drop your return down. And so I would say if it still hits your minimum return, buy that deal if you feel really comfortable about the numbers. Or I would even go talk to a different lender and say, hey, look, here's the numbers. This is what I need leverage on. And that's plenty of times I've had hard money lenders price stuff way differently.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's the questions I had. Thank you.
Yep, for sure. Sergi.
Hey, James.
What's going on, bud? How are you?
How's it going?
Good, dude.
I have a quick question. I started on my newest flip in Edmonds, and I'm doing panel swap this week.
Okay.
So I'm not touching anything before I do my panel.
Good job on that.
And and I'm planning to pull permit on plumbing. It's gonna be just minor finishes, update on finishes. And of course, we gotta move kitchen wall. So my question is it beneficial to go ahead and pull permit for that kitchen wall to install the beam, or kind of go around it?
Okay. But you are pulling a plumbing fixture swap out, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we most likely will need to relocate the water heater as well.
Okay, but you're not pulling any permit for the electrical besides the panel, right?
I still will talk with my electrician because we gotta do some minor electrical work.
Okay.
So I still will talk with him because he's gonna be the one who's changing the panel, and he's gonna be the one who's gonna do my electrical. So if he's gonna be okay to do that without permits inside the house, then most likely not.
Okay, yeah, because the one thing you want to look at on some, because Edmonds, they're pretty much an all-in-one city, right? Where they do a lot of their own inspections, because they do their
Yeah.
electrical in-house too, right?
I think so.
And that their plumbing is in-house, it's not public health, is it?
It's in-house, yeah. It's City of Edmonds, yes.
Yeah, the thing I get worried about if they're already in there, they're like, hey, what happened to this wall? When they call it,
Mhm.
I probably shouldn't be saying that. I'd kind of do it two ways. I'd either pull the permit on the panel, get it signed off, then knock out the rest. It just on its own. No permit, or I would permit that beam in too, because I feel like that inspector is going to say something about your beam.
Yeah, and I checked with City of Edmonds today, and they said the turnaround time for that simple remodel for just one beam is going to be 7 to 10 business days.
So, and it's not, I mean, I guess that's not terrible. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty quick.
Yeah, no, the only time I avoid some permits is when the time frame is way too unnecessary. I'm like, this is crazy. I would probably, if you're gonna pull the permit on the panel and the plumbing, I pull it on that beam too.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, okay, if I do permit on the plumbing and the inspector show up to check things, and then technically he could ask
way more
a
than 7
question.
days.
Yeah, he could ask a question on the wall because at some point it needs to be gone.
Yeah. And I would say it's gonna cost you more time if he goes, hey, you need to go into the city and then get it drawn up and then submit. You'll probably lose
Yeah.
2 to 3 times more longer than that 7 to 10. And I mean, by the time you're even ready for, I would start the work no matter what right away.
Yeah.
And it's like by the time you're ready for the inspection, you'll have the permit no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I would do it if I was you.
Okay, my other question is, we are swapping windows like to like. Do I need to pull permits for that one as well, or do I need to show it on the beam permit or no? When we're gonna apply for beam permit?
You don't, if everything else is like for like, you shouldn't have
And-
to.
Okay.
I mean, they might ask for a general scope of work because they want some dollar amount on that
Mhm.
building permit. But yeah, because that's where you are gonna open up. They're like, well, what else are you doing there? And you're going, oh, what's like for like change out? They're gonna want per fixture a lot of times on plumbing and per fixture on electrical.
Mm-hmm.
But you won't need much more. If you're not moving walls, that's the easiest thing. You know,
No, the
especially
only
kitchen wall.
the only wall that's getting moved is kitchen wall, and we're just adding downstairs, which kind of separating a laundry room, which is kind of open from the hallway. So we gotta put a couple of studs in and make a door over there, and that's basically it for layout change.
Okay, so they are gonna want as-built no matter what when you submit though.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're gonna be fine on the like for like. You're gonna want to get as-built plans drawn up because they're gonna want to see that no matter what on that beam, because they're gonna want you to get just a full building permit with a general description, even if it's cheap. They're gonna require that.
Yeah.
And then what I would do on the as-built is just draw in the laundry room the way you're framing it already, because that's all 2x4s. Like, who cares, right? I
Yeah.
would just draw it up like it's already there, and then it only shows one wall. They'll streamline it through, but they're gonna want the as-built before and after, no matter what. And so I would just
Yeah.
submit that way. But I don't think, and they will ask you for a general scope of work no matter what, and a dollar amount. And I think you just throw in a low dollar amount to say flooring, cabinets, doors, and trim. Like, it's just cheap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you shouldn't have much problem. Especially Edmonds is pretty cool. As long as you don't get red tagged. If you get red tagged, it's not fun.
Well, that's what that was my initial tags, because I have one project in Shoreline when I partnered with my brother, and we got red tagged on that one, and it's not cool at all.
Yeah, it all depends on the inspector, really. Because you're already pulling those permits, I would just do the rest of it, because it's like it almost puts you in the gray area rather than just black or white, where you're like running with no permit, and
Yeah.
then you get sucked back in. You just lose so much more time on it. And right
Yeah,
now, with how fast you guys are, you can get that thing to market fairly quick and hit that tail end of the spring market.
Yeah, and especially when I find out today it's like 7 to 10 business days, I was like, I probably have to do it. And just by the time the permit is going to be ready, I'm going to be ready to move that wall and start scheme code or new sheetrock, whatever my drywall is going to say.
Yeah, you're gonna be calling for inspection the day you get your permit.
Probably.
Yeah, that's what we do on almost everything. Or now this one's easy, but if it's ever a structural, we get the permit and then submit the revisions, and then we're at least can keep working at that point.
Yeah. And process-wise, do I need to get permit first and then take down the wall, or I can kind of like already start working on it and install the beam and get everything ready for inspection?
I would just go and get it ready for inspection. In theory, you're
Okay.
supposed to wait. I would never wait. I'm just gonna because I'm having it inspected no matter what. And so I would just have it ready the day that permit's coming out. So I would just get going. Just make sure you have the engineering right, so you don't put in the wrong beam.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'll go through that for sure. Okay, that was all my question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's you guys. One of the most important things is just pulling the right permit at the right time and moving it. This is a game of chess sometimes where you just gotta keep it moving. And these little questions that Sergey just asked is actually really important. Like, do I pull this permit or this permit? What order? because if you pull it the wrong way, you can get delayed for a month or two. It sucks.
Yeah.
And no, it's one of the
Yeah, if I would do that Shoreline property, if I would do it this way, I could probably be right around to kind of the end of the project with all the permits and everything. But now we're just probably still 5 to 6 weeks from first review
yeah.
when we get rate tagged. So it's gonna take much more time for sure.
Oh, did you get red tagged in Shoreline?
Shoreline, yeah,
Oh, they're so mean when you get red tagged in Shoreline too.
yeah.
They talk to you like you're a little kid.
Yeah, so I called probably like 3 or 4 times before before the inspector start to talking with me, just normally and calm. Like first 3 times he would almost scream at me. I was like, "Hey, I'm not doing this every day, this is first time, so I need help. Like what steps do I need to take to get to the permit points and stuff." So, but he was like so angry at me and almost screamed at me.
Dude, they get mad. They definitely get mad. Best thing you can do is just go in with your hat in hand, like I really screwed up here. How do I fix this?
Yeah, I was trying that, and then the first time I called, he was like, "Okay, you can kind of do the outside landscaping stuff, but make sure you're not touching the building."
Yeah, it's not enjoyable. There's certain cities that, yeah, Shoreline, I just pulled 2 permits and I'm like, dude, and I didn't even think we really needed them, but I'm like, I just don't want to mess around the city.
Yeah, and actually the question on Shoreline, so we got red tag, but we need to change the windows, same thing, like to like. Do I go ahead and change it, or at this point I just wait and see and wait for permits and then do it?
Well, you're already red tagged.
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch the house until they say you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that will make that guy more mad.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
That's for
definitely.
sure.
Yeah. But are your windows already demoed out?
Shoreline?
Yep.
Well, it's so the interior is basically ready for drywall,
Okay.
for drywall patches, and we're doing some skim coat over there as well. So if my windows would be changed, then I could possibly finish it outside, like paint it and get it all done, and landscaping, and just leave the inside for until we get the permits.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't touch the windows unless they were pulled out already, then you can make the argument.
No.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't touch the house for now. They'll
Yeah,
slow you down.
that's what I do. I'm just chilling around.
Yes.
On that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was all my questions. Thank you, James.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Sahan, I saw we got Daddy Kitchen.
Yes. Hi, James. How are you?
Good.
Yes. So we discussed about this layout 2 weeks ago, and we made the changes as you suggested. I just want your opinion.
Oh,
on
this is where I went full circle on it, right? I was like, well, actually, I tried, and I was like, you know what? I actually kind of like your plan quite a bit. Okay, let me pull that up. Yes, I remember this. I was like, I started ripping it apart, and then I came right back to you guys.
We definitely like how you said, like, we have to open up the kitchen area, removing the walls. So we just made some changes to that.
Yeah, I'm pulling up right here. I'm going to get it on Zoom for everybody. I actually already like this. And I think it's also one of the reasons I gave the suggestion is just I think the buyers there want a big party. Like your next buyer is going to be a little bit younger. And
Yeah.
that open concept. Okay, so here it is now. So, okay, so you did. Okay, you moved the closet over, right?
Yeah. So I'm also attaching the old layout.
You got the old layout as well?
I just sent the old layout as well.
Okay, there's the old layout.
So we basically moved the washer and dryer into the pantry area and made the bathroom smaller.
Oh, and then your tankless hot water tank moved over here too, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I personally like this layout better
Okay.
because I feel like it's a little bit more airy. And then one thing we did talk about was maybe adding one more window somewhere.
Next to the fireplace, two little
Oh yeah,
windows.
put two here, and then oh yeah, because you have light coming down here. Just personally, I think when you come in your house, it's going to feel a lot more open and grand, and it's going to match with that big tall ceiling you have going on down there in the main.
Okay.
And I feel like it's going to be a lot more inviting. And you at the let me grab this other plan one more time. And anybody else on the call too, if you have feedback on this, please pipe up because everyone has a different opinion, looks at things differently, so it's always good. Where did that other plan go? Keep losing it. Share. I'm like trying to juggle in between these two plans. Okay, so we have what I like about this is it comes in, it's a lot more open. It's going to make this space feel better too,
Okay.
because you're going to come in, you're going to be able to see all the way through rather than hit that wall in the back on the other one. And so I feel like it's going to enhance that entryway that you guys are going to have. This is going to be really cool, that big tall ceiling.
Okay.
Um,
And what do you think of the cabinets, like long cabinets on the countertop, like because it's straight to the end, right?
That is a lot of countertop space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? How many feet is that? Oh yeah, that's expensive. That's gonna be, you know what you could almost do is, I wouldn't run it all the way to the end. You could do like a pantry cabinet across from your washer dryer here.
Oh, okay.
And then that way that could be either storage for the kitchen or, if people need it for the washer dryer across the way too.
Okay.
And then
Makes
yeah,
sense.
run this pantry cabinet up, and then you have plenty of countertop space here.
Yeah, makes sense.
I personally think it's just better. Like, I don't feel like you're losing anything by going here, but you're gaining more open concept, more natural light.
Mhm.
And when you had the butler pantry, it just closed it off more. And if that wasn't going to your undercover patio, I would have said leave it. But I think this just allows people to flow through the house more.
Okay. And do you think are there like any other changes that needs to be done?
I mean, I just watch this pinch on the wine bar, wine rack. Make sure you have good, ample space.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. Okay, I'm looking at this the wrong way. That's the 4 foot. So yeah, you get good flow coming through there. The bedroom works. I was trying to figure out if there's a way to get rid of that corner shower and make it a little bit more symmetrical, but I don't think there is. And I think the overall benefit is going to be a lot better for your kitchen than this, because your primary is upstairs, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so I think this works. I wouldn't do a whole lot more. I think it just kind of gets what we're trying to accomplish was a little bit more light and airiness coming through. See if I can move that corner shower, but I think you got to kind of leave it that way. As you say, the only thing you could do is cut your closet in half and make it a small closet for this bedroom, and then stick the shower on the other side, and then just do it. You recess it in, but that's a little tight. No, I think I would leave it alone. I think this is good. I think I think buyers are gonna like this better.
Okay, and what do you think of tankless water heater in the closet?
Oh, I think that's fine. It's a good spot to hide it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. No, I think that's good because I mean that closet's a good size anyways, so it's not gonna affect it too much.
Okay.
And I wouldn't want to sacrifice it anywhere else. I mean, the only other thing you could do is stick it in that pantry cabinet on this side if you wanted.
Got it.
But I would leave it over here. I don't think that's gonna affect anything at all because that's gonna be your kind of guest bedroom anyways, or office.
Yeah. Okay. And James, I've also posted the second upper floor drawing. So we kind of tweaked the layout and added 5 piece in the primary bedroom and made the closet smaller, like from walk-in closet to the 2 feet closet. So like, what do you think of that? Which would be valuable?
Here, right?
Yeah.
And what modification did you do again? Sorry, I'm just getting a read on this plan.
So which one would be better, like adding a like walk-in closet or making using the 5 piece bathroom towards the walk-in closet? I'm just trying to decide between walk-in closet versus 5 piece bathroom.
Well, the one thing I would say about keeping the 5 piece is that's going to be your only tub in the house.
Okay.
And so I would keep the tub because you want to have one in the house no matter what.
Yeah.
And I do like the oversized shower that you're utilizing that as like a wet room and then your tub's there. I personally like, I think part of it is with going with the vaulted ceiling, you lose a little bit of space in spots, and that's what's kind of making this harder to get a walk-in closet in this one. But I would say stick with the bigger bathroom and then keep the closet here and then maybe invest in just a little bit of built-in closet racking.
Okay.
For that, so it's a little bit more custom organized with some drawers. You can it doesn't cost that much to do like AAA CarTac is a great glass and cabinet company or closet company that is pretty affordable. I would just do a little bit more built-ins in that closet space.
Got it. So initially we were thinking to build one side with the built-in cabinets and the other side to leave for the shelves.
Oh, well, they make built-in hanging systems that will go across the whole thing that will have some closet, they'll have some drawer. You can customize it a bunch of different ways and it's not too expensive, but it will all mount to the wall. So you have racking, some drawers, everything, and it just really maximizes your closet space.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and so you suggest keeping the bathroom as it is and do built-in cabinets in the closet.
Yeah, because I want you to keep a tub. I think it's important to keep a tub in the house.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like with the space that you have, I don't know if you're going to get much of a walk-in closet anyways by cutting it down.
Mm-hmm.
And your bathroom's going to get really small, so I think you have ample closet space on the right, and then the bathroom still feels good over there.
Okay. Thank you, James.
Yeah, no, I think it's looking good. I mean, the vaulted ceiling, you're always going to sacrifice a little bit of floor plan with the open to below, but you're going to have a amazing first entrance. So it's that trade-off of what do you want to keep, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to feel big and spacious.
Yeah, either way, the limit, interior limit is like 1200 in the Kirkland. So that's the reason we opted for the vaulted ceilings.
Yeah, it's, I think, and it can chop up your floor plan, crunch some things down, but it's going to make your main floor feel really, really good.
Okay. You do have like more ideas on that?
About this plan?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's laid out the best it's gonna be right here, because you got your, I mean, I like that it's got the in-suite bath there. Closet's ample size for this bedroom for sure. You know, it just, when you have that, it just shrinks your spaces. Like the bedroom's a little small, but so are a lot of these DADUs, especially when you got that vault. And I think you got ample closet space in the bathrooms looking, I mean, it's a good size. Let me,
Okay.
what is that? 2.9. What is your shower size actually?
It's
That 2.9 plus, is that 3.3?
3. Yeah.
Okay, you could bring that to like just straight 5 feet and give a little bit more room if you need it for your toilet. Make sure that door's not too tight on that door swing.
Okay.
But because
Oh,
a tub can go 5 feet wide. And that's
probably
plenty.
making the shrinking 1 feet down into the shower. That way we have more access to the toilet.
Yeah, that way if you know the door doesn't swing into somebody sitting on it.
Okay.
You know, I would say that would be my only, I mean, and you might want to do a pocket door on that bathroom too, just so you don't have that issue with the door swing there.
But isn't pocket door usually considered as not good as swing, right?
It's as well, well for this situation, not a barn door. Barn door would be less, I think. Pocket door, yeah, I mean, you do want to consider the door swing, right? The good thing is, you know, because your toilet's coming off the wall, it's gonna be pretty tight. That door's gonna hit that toilet pretty close. I would put the pocket door in.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Not a barn door. Make it built in. That works a lot better.
Yeah. I think that's the questions that I have, James.
No, it's looking cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you're almost through the hard part, going over floor plans with your significant other. That's always the debate and the pressure in the house.
Yeah.
Take the pressure off your relationship.
And also, I have one more question, James. Like, so downstairs, the front porch, we are doing a actually covered porch.
Okay.
We have wall on one side and post on the other side. Like, it's how do you I don't have an image, but like we're just trying to create wall on one side, like contemporary style. But having a post on the other side, like, would you recommend doing that?
Do you have to have the post?
Because it's 6 feet cantilever, that's the reason they're suggesting to have a post.
Okay, so we need to have a post. So basically your entryway has a post to the left, wall to the right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think what you do, so things like that, I would leave the post, and then as the house starts forming, then we can figure out some sort of kind of cool screening detail or wrapping detail around the post, but you can kind of change that up based on how it's feeling.
Okay.
And so there's a couple things that we can do. We can wrap, you know, I've done things where I've wrapped it with it, you know, and painted on black, or you can wrap them with a metal L channel, or you can do like a very 2x2 screen all the way down. But you know, I think that's something I would wait to make that decision on when it's framed, because then you can kind of feel it a little better.
Got it. Okay. And the reason why we need posts is it's because 6x6. But if we go with the 4x6, they wouldn't need any posts. Like, what is the normal? What size is considered as a normal front entry porch?
I think 6x6 is going to be better for the house
6x6.
because
Okay.
you don't want it to feel like a back porch coming in.
Got it. Okay. And in one of your videos, you've mentioned, like, especially in Seattle DADUs, people are going away from mid-century style, right? But I typically see the comps in mid-century style. Would you suggest going with the modern contemporary?
No, I mean, it's just, I said they were getting away from mid-century, or they like mid-century.
Ranch style. Basically, you said like they're going away from the ranch style. With the board and batten and everything.
The farmhouse look.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, farm style. Yeah.
Yeah, the farmhouse. Well, that was like the overplayed out farmhouses where it was kind of like, in 2016, 14, everything was like gray and whites and cool. And then people kind of got sick of it and they went with warms. It's just the over farmhouse. So like the gridded windows and the plate up ones, people are a little over them. You know, every house is going to have an era and time frame. And so I think the biggest thing, whether you do contemporary or farmhouse or mid, is just to do it timeless, not too played into it. And
Okay.
so I don't think that farmhouse, like general farmhouse architecture, it's just when you play heavy on it. And it's good to kind of switch some themes up, you know, so like every house was getting painted white with black windows.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and so it kind of got washed out. I personally think with the demographic that's buying in the East Side right now, like a transitional, like a light contemporary or more traditional, like don't play too heavy. Like you don't want to go too modern. You want to go kind of like a contemporary.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah, because we haven't decided on the exterior yet, so that's why I'm like trying to
Oh,
figure
okay.
out.
We bring those next time on your schematics, and I can kind of. A lot of times, it's just playing with the siding a little bit,
Okay.
and switching some things up to make it a little bit more timeless looking. But you know, it's just you know, or what the front porch looks like. You can make it a little contemporary, but not. I wouldn't go too modern either. I'd go kind of that kind of.
Okay.
Bring in the schematics. I can give you a little bit better opinion on
Okay.
that when you guys are wrapping
Yeah.
up.
Sounds good. Thank you, James.
For sure.
Thanks.
Byron, what's up, buddy?
Hey, James, what's up?
I feel like you were I was like, I feel like Byron's been waiting a long time, but I think
No,
you took it down.
Yeah, I had to jump in the car and transfer
Okay,
to
I
my
almost was
phone,
like
and
cut the line with you. I was like, I swear Byron's hand's been up.
it's all good. I got back in the line.
Um,
How you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm flying in on I'll be there Thursday.
Hey, coming to some good weather.
Is it good weather?
Yes, I think high 70s, low 80s.
Oh, that's hitting it right then.
Yeah. I know we're getting late, so I'll make my questions quick. So from a financing perspective, I'm in the process of getting a HELOC somewhere
Okay.
around 500 to 750. Found a credit union that will do like an introductory rate of 4.99 for 6 months, and then it will be prime minus half a point. So my question is,
Introductory rate. That's a good sign for everybody. That means rates are coming down.
yeah. So the question is, what's your recommended debt structure when using HELOC and hard money? Because when I play with it, right, the more I'm putting down with the HELOC, it's affecting that cash on cash return, or do I not treat that as kind of a true money down? Like, what's your guidance there?
Well, we want to always look at the blended cost, right? Which obviously your HELOC's gonna be cheaper than hard money. I look at it, so I always look at cash on cash return because it gives me a very organic way to look at profit. Whether I'm bringing in money or not, it kind of sets like my threshold of like, this is where it needs to be at, whether I bring in extra leverage or not, which a HELOC would be one of those, or if I'm borrowing a second from somebody, or, and so I always look at cash on cash return, and then I put in the extra debt to look at how does it affect the profit, and does that still look good?
Gotcha. Okay.
Because, you know, and I would say just when you're looking at deals, you're getting pre-qualified. Oh, by the way, you guys, there's a lender in California that I chatted with yesterday that was, I'm going to give this to you now because I don't want to forget. They seem to be pretty dialed. And they quoted me very low rates. Shockingly low. So let me get you this little person's name. I want to put it in the chat. Actually, you know what? Let me go through the process first, and then I'll give you my recommendation. Because the mortgage people say all sorts of shit, and then you go through, you're like, this is garbage. So give me another week, and then I'll give you the person's contact for everybody.
Sweet.
because you know what, part of it, I was like, well, why you guys quote me this? This doesn't make sense. So let me see if it actually makes sense. But I would say always look at the true cash on cash. I mean, the good thing about the HELOC is you can always pay more and it's going to increase profit. And so what I would look at is if I have a HELOC and let's say I can make a 20% return on a deal and I can borrow it at prime plus 1.5. If I know I'm not going to do a second deal and I'm just working through it, I'm going to put more money down anyways on the property profit. But I'm always going to look at it with my pre-approved amount of like, hey, with 15% down of the total project costs, I'm making a 35% return. That's like my checkpoint for underwriting. Then how I use the liquidity is, do I want to put more cash down just to create more profit because I don't have other use for it? That's a different strategy at that point. So the cash on cash return, that's my deal. And then how I leverage it is kind of up to my situation, what I have going on.
Perfect. That makes sense.
And then leave a little buffer with that money too, you know, because you never know on overruns, and you know, it's a great thing to have as a, you know, just a backup for, you know, any kind of delays.
Okay.
It's kind of like your safety net too, you know, like, because once the lender gives you the construction loan, let's say there's an extra 50 grand of cost you didn't know about, at least you have your HELOC to tap into.
Perfect. Okay, makes sense. Second question, when you have your scope of work, you're giving it to your GC to bid, how detailed, I've kind of heard varied levels of detail. How detailed are you giving your scope of work for the bid? Are you keeping it high level just to start that negotiation, or are you going a little bit more dialed in so that they can come refined?
You know, it kind of depends on the contractor I'm meeting, but typically I'm coming in as dialed in. I want to be as clear as possible because I want to be able to document that I requested these things numerous times in case for some reason it doesn't make it in the scope of work. And I'm like, hey, look, we talked about this, we acknowledged it, you sign this, it acknowledges with the construction contract. And so I just like to be, I don't like to play the cat and mouse games with these guys as much. And I'm like, hey, this is what I need done. Now, I won't break out the numbers now for some of these guys. I just tell them, this is what I need it done for, but I make sure that I'm very, very detailed with, like, you know, I want a 20 by 20 deck in the back with a staircase going down to the yard. And I try to be as clear, because if I say build a deck, they're like, well, I only bid a 10 by 10 deck. And so I try to be, the more details up front, the better. Now, pricing wise, you don't need to tell them the pricing, but just at least what you want done, I would make it as clear as possible.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, well, any more last minute questions? Oh, I see Wendy on. Hey, Wendy, you're gonna get an email from me. I had to update all my loans, so they got that all. A bunch paid off, and so I was getting that balanced out. So now you have a fresh sheet coming your way. That actually will be in your email probably the next hour. They got everything
That
updated.
would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, the
I was
list.
gonna bug you one day.
No, I had the list, and then I was talking to Amanda, who's our loan processor, that you'll get to know. She's the best of the best for loans, docs, and processes.
Oh, cool.
The best. She's like, hey, let me get this updated because I had payoff requests out, and you know, she's like, if you sell off these loans, they might be getting their money back in 10 days. I was like, okay, yeah, get that all cut up. So we got that all cut up, and then we took the ones they were paying off in 30 days or so, and then we added in the new ones in with the underwrite. So you're gonna get a screenshot on all that stuff actually right after we're done with the call.
That's perfect. I'm selling my firehouse. It's closing on
Did they buy it
Tuesday.
back?
Yes, so it's closing on Tuesday, so I can redirect that. So
You know
yeah,
what?
it's good timing.
That's honestly, I gave you that advice, and that was such a coin toss. I thought the odds of them buying it back off you were really low, but shit.
Really?
You know what?
It
You got to
worked.
give these guys some character. They stepped up and took it back.
Yes. Yes,
Like,
they did.
I mean, they might have done the project wrong, and maybe they know what they're doing. They just missed a vital step. But I mean,
Yeah.
I will say, you know, when it's all done, I call them. Obviously it sucked for you, but say, hey,
Yeah.
thanks for showing up and doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of, I kept holding my breath, you know, but we've got attorneys and it's all like signed off and like title's gone through. So it's looking very, very, you know, like 99% that like it's happening, right? So yeah, I think you're right. Like I don't know, even you're surprised by this?
Well, no, just it's a matter of they have to have the means, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of flippers, they don't have the means because they spend their money as fast as they make it.
Yeah.
And, you know, or they might not have the banking
They've got a
ability.
great hard money lender that they partner with. So that's how they're buying this back is
Oh, so that guy might have been part of the lawsuit then.
Oh,
And so he
okay.
doesn't want to deal. But so that, yeah, so the fact that they have that financial backing, it's not that even some guys
Yeah.
would do it, they just couldn't do it, is the issue.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, like
I'm
it's
pretty happy.
no, that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean, someone buying a house back, I mean, we've done it with like, I mean, I remember I sold a deal to a client one time, and it was just something that was totally couldn't have caught it no matter what. It was like a title issue that didn't show up on title. No one knew about it. And then the lawsuit filed like literally 2 days after it closed.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, this sucks. And the client was like, I can't deal with They just couldn't. And so we just bought the deal right back off them, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is because I was used to dealing with stuff like that and they were not. But yeah, I never had to buy a flip off anybody, but luckily we just try to do it right.
Well, yeah. So I guess I still lost some money, but it's not, you know, it's nothing I can't live with. So yeah, it's fine. It's good. I got lucky. I learned a good lesson and I didn't have to pay too much for it.
Yes, I can tell you the big lessons I've learned have cost me a lot typically.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No. So I'm very excited. But thank you.
yeah, well, I will send that off, and then I'm sending you a separate email too that I kind of giving you a tutorial what we talked about too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, it's been a long one, so but I will but I'm making sure I don't miss anything in the question box. I think we're looking
Oh,
pretty.
hey, sorry, it's Wendy again. You mentioned you had a buddy in St. Louis, that's
Yes.
doing flips. What can you
Yeah.
give me his um name or info and I can email him?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
if
You know
you
what
want
the
to shoot
problem
me.
was is for some reason I don't have his phone number on my phone for whatever reason. Oh, wait, no, you want to try this, but I can shoot
You
him.
can text me if you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot him an email or a
Yeah,
message on Instagram right now.
that'd be awesome.
Where his
Thanks.
number went.
I'm still interested in that market overall, so
Yeah, his
I'd
name's
love to
Ian
get connected.
Reeves.
What is it?
Ian Reeves.
Ian Reeves? Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'm messaging him right now too.
Thanks.
But yeah, I really like Ian. I met him at a Maui thing like 6-7 years ago, and he's a hardworking dude.
Awesome. Thank you so
Interesting
much.
guy. Cool. I'm gonna, as soon as he sends it, I'll fire it off to you as well.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good
Okay.
night.